acid scene thrill kill part where you were murdering about 275 people just headshot while you're tripping on acid, having a full-blown rage psych out thing. And it was just as violent, if not more violent, than anything we had seen in State of Emergency or Manhunt. And, you know, yes, it was cartoon violence, but it was also demented, crazy shit.
I'm just a messenger.
Thanks to the flock of pimps for bankrolling this long motherfucking video.
I think you smoke a joint with like an amendment person who's trying to get weed legalized. And it's laced with acid, I think.
Another massive thanks to all the pimperers. You are the pimp rock to my snuff. I'll have the uncut version coming at you guys in the upcoming days. Goodbye, pimps.
This was good. Let's see what else he's done. Rising Storm, Vietnam 2. Oh my god.
Whoa! Drink you stupid gypsy! Now it's time for me to be home free. Is there any chance? Stop our beef! What a beautiful sunny day in Chernobyl. Am I right or am I left? It's almost sunny in Chernobyl, just like at the American hit TV show. It plays all time with Jerry Springer on our one channel. Please have rakia. You like that? My cousin made it in a shoe this morning. That's tomache foot fungus right there. Listen, there are 3 things in this world that I cannot stand: intolerance of other people's cultures, gypsies, and the running out of
a tolerance of other people's cultures? What? Like listening to these fucking dudes, these like weird incel, like male, toxic male dudes. He's funny, but he's also like demented. You can hear him. He's like, yeah, there's one thing I can't stand, and it's other people who are tolerant of other cultures. And that's like, what?
Drinking on Job is expectation, and Job is finding gypsies. Dirty, dirty gypsies. Some people say there are good gypsies out there. Nah. I'll see it when I believe it. Some people also say stalker is not a job and that I'm just some Slavic alcoholic murder. Oh, I mean, these people know nothing. This shit's hard work. You won't be able to do it. Where are you from? Salt Lake City? Well, your sister wives won't be able to do it either, Mormon. But if you do want to survive like me, all you need is my tip, which you can know for 25 poker bucks. Okay, fine. The first one is Slav squatting. That one is free. Everyone knows bullets can't hit you down here. Must be true. Must be true. But as for the other 5, okay, fine. I'll tell you the other 5. But first we poker.
Allow me to introduce myself. Gus Polinski. Polka King of the Midwest. Polka. No.
Polka.
Yeah, we sold about 623 copies of that.
In Chicago?
No, Sheboygan. Very big in Sheboygan. They love it.
Please, taxi.
Sheboygan.
Slowcry 2 is a sandbox set in the beautiful suburbs of Chernobyl. Many people incorrectly call Stalker 2 a post-apocalyptic game, but it's not. This is just Slavic Europe. Don't let the woo-woo bullshit confuse you. This game may as well be a Google Maps street view of Serbia. All it's missing is the abnormal spawn rate of hot women. I take that back. We have Olga. Olga, where are you, Olga? Olga, are you back there? I know you can't be Olga. Hang on one second. I think I know how to fix this. Olga, as beautiful as the in the Slav lands, you get paid shit, the customer service is terrible, and there are gypsies all over with their flame magic and their floating thorns and their magical spells. Pripyat, you even know what the gypsy is? No. But I'll know one when I see one. A wise man once told me, if you're not sure if someone is gypsy, shoot them. And if they shoot back, gypsy. Must be true. Yeah, let's put this to the test. He was not gypsy, I do not think. Must be true. In the Slav lands, the way to survive is becoming competent. The way to thrive is becoming a ruthless alcoholic. But chances are, if you watch this channel, you probably have the second part of that down. So today I'm gonna teach you how to become ruthless. How to become like Polka King of the East. Because Stalker 2 is not game, this is not movie, this is a citizenship test. And by the time you finish it, you'll have passport to the Slavic country of your choosing, and a tracksuit will grow out of your skin like venom. Okay, here we go. I play this game like I play the first run of every toddler Howard game. I skip all the dialogue and always take the first off-ramp to violence I get. And I call this playstyle Rush B. But what I discovered in my homicidal haze was that if you play as a backstabbing, conniving, thieving, substance-addicted primate, then prepare yourself for complete and total success. Prepare to have money flying out of your ass like Chuck E. Cheese tickets. Except in Slav lands, the currency isn't cash, it's coupons. So consider the following financial tips very extreme couponing. First, the problem with coupons in this game is that all the shops are run by Slovenians, therefore you get half of what you should for triple the price. This is why I recommend locally sourced guns and ammunition. Quick vodka break? Okay, we can keep going. Instead of buying a gun from shop, find someone out in the wild and whoops! What a tragic hunting accident. I call that one the Chinese special, huh? Need a little vodka in these trying times? If a small group of traders dies in a field and no witnesses are left to report it, did it really happen? Want to get the best armor and best gun in the game? Beat the arena, dump all the guns out of the arena door, then run through both doors and back to your gear that should have been confiscated by the NPC, but now because it wasn't in your inventory when you left the arena, it's yours to keep. If you expect to survive, Slav lands do not take what they give you, take what they have. Stalkers want to give you 3,000 coupons for saving their lives? Take their soul. You've died like dogs in there if you hadn't saved our asses. Take their gear and take 80,000 coupons instead. Art of the Slav. You'll be shocked at how accommodating these NPCs are to your needs. Like, look at this kind young man leading me to his friends so I can have all their vodka too. So considerate. So quit buying your shit like a big pussy. Real Slav doesn't shop with shopping cart. He shops with Kalishnikov. Save all those coupons for repairing your guns, so your Kalishnikov doesn't start identifying as an M16. And now I know you're already twirling about how you can knock off a
what?
But you can't. Cities are protected by invisible gypsies. If you try to shoot an RPG in the city, boom, invisible gypsies steal your RPG right out of the end. Those conniving mother bitches and their cock-licking magic. To be clear, I don't shoot everything. I'm not a monster. I just want to get the record straight before we move on. If I know they don't have anything, why should I put that weight on my soul, right?
You guys are hysterical. Okay, also wakes up with a real bad hangover. He opens one eye and sees something hairy and scary.
That was a good one. That was very funny. Fuck it, my soul could use fuel pump. Kidding aside, the only thing that should never be killed under any circumstances is the guitar guy. It is very bad luck to kill the guitar guy. I once heard my cousin shot Ben with guitar. Next day, foot falls off in sleep. Must be true. What do you want? Now, before I talk about the weapons you should bring, let's talk about the AI. In addition to magically spawning every time I look away to whip out my robo-dick, they're spawning 3 feet in front of me so they can very naturally go for a 4-man wall inspection. They are autistic savants. Real Rain Men, if you know what I mean. And if you don't worry, I'm about to tell you. For as often as I see them gaggle fucking in an alley, making me wish I had my climate changer on me. I also see them shooting me from a mile away at night with iron sights. For as much as I witness them having a post-traumatic episode in the middle of a door frame, I witnessed them twice as much lobbing the 30 grenades they have rattling around in each tracksuit pocket trying to flush me out of cover.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
I can't tell if they're stupid, if I'm stupid, or if we're coexisting in our stupidity, feeding the remaining brain cells out of each other. As for the gypsies, most of them are savants with the very rare encounter of a fellow double chromie homie. However, unlike the humans, there's a hard counter that thwarts all gypsy attacks, and that brilliant hard counter is standing on a small wooden box. But what should you use once you get up on that wooden box? Good question, Fleek. Let's talk about the problem solver, the peacekeepers, the Slavic firecrackers. You ask most people what the best gun in this game is, and they'll tell you any rifle with armor-piercing rounds and a long scope. The problem with this device is because I bought a fancy monitor recently, now I can't see shit at night. My nocturnal accuracy went from Chris Kyle to Helen Keller. Now when nighttime comes, I can't even see those enemies shooting at me from 2 miles away. I just start freaking out and blind firing back. Sometimes I don't even fire back in the right direction. Therefore, out of this ineptitude and insecurity, I must take a firm stance and say that scoped rifles are for Slovenian femboys. Must be true. Oh, you shut up. The real Slavs that can't fucking see are talking. What do you do when you can't aim for shit? That's right, you up the caliber so that when it hits, their ancestors feel it. Which brings us to the best gun in this game, the Big Ivan. Big Ivan. When I miss with the Big Ivan, I kill an entire ant colony with these absolute fucking tank shells they call 9x39 round. Big Ivan on that slide. Big Ivan on these hips. Big Ivan on these hips. I've always been told my singing drives people to drink. I guess greatness inspires greatness. Please have some. As for mutants, use the Smash 12 because this. One final note on the combat, these leans have gotten significantly deeper than the old days by a matter of several degrees, and I just wanted to thank the devs for that. It's good to see our stalker's been keeping up with his Pilates. Namaste. But the combat's not always heads up, shoot 'em up. We also have stealth now. Kind of. Not really. My version of stealth is called shoot load and vanish. Meaning I use my sound barrier breaking Big Ivan, then I walk away because stealth is for big pussies. Not even the AI care about stealth. If you kill someone that's right behind someone else, they won't even look back to check if he's dead. They know he's dead and they do not care. Take off the suppressor already. Gypsies? Woo! Whole different story. When I try to shoot, load, and vanish, they run across you for 3 seconds and fuck me up. They can go invisible, then pop up and assault you completely naked. They have girthy Gypsy Yoda that uses Gypsy magic to turn around and give you the father fingers. What are they thinking? Do they think me not having my gun is gonna stop me from shooting my gun? Guess again, bitch baby! Watch me shoot my gun! Watch me reload my ghost gun! Then look at these tracks! Look at them, they have acrobatic Gypsy magic. They fly up, they reverse.
Fuck, I rolled because I thought there was a grenade in my feet.
Big funky Gypsy walking in the middle of gang war, not cold factions on their ass. And then we have this guy fondling me through the walls. These gypsies are getting out of control. Sir, those are not gypsies, those are mutants. Couldn't agree more. No, I mean there are two separate things. What gypsies are Romanian people? That's what I was trying to tell you earlier. I have no problem with Romanians. My mother's Romanian. I can have problems with Romanians. Tell me, how are they slightly different from me? Now, there's one thing I should clear up in this detailed and effective guide. Many people say this game is riddled with glitches. Now, I understand this may be culture shock for you, but to us, this is just anomaly. It's like snow. It happens in the winter. It just happens that we are always in winter. But yes, the game does run like my ass after Taco Bell because the developers decided to utilize Unreal Engine 5's hyper-realistic graphics to bring the scenic, shelled-out former Soviet Union to life. And as long as we're in the neighborhood, let's talk about some cons of Stalker 2. First, the voice acting is very hit or miss in English. Sometimes you even hit and miss back-to-back, like this right here. We get this gravelly, proper voice actor.
I don't really care. The Strider will want to talk to you.
Then we get...
No, he's a stalker. I did not return. It's not true.
Bad rough stuff right there. Truly, just bad. But if that was someone's make-a-wish, then I take it back. You did a great job. Second, I have to walk everywhere in this game, and for several fictional units of measurement. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not asking for fast travel here. I want to maintain the integrity. But can I please get my Yugo back? I need some fast transportation. How am I supposed to drink and drive if I have nothing to drive, huh? What is the price side of Yugoslavia. Why won't you let me get the third DUI? Don't stop me from unlocking my true potential. But speaking of potential, you will have no potential if you don't follow Stalker Fleek's Slavic supplement guide. Slavic medicine boils down to two things: more vodka, more Red Bull. You counter uppers and downers with uppers. It is like yin and yang. Radiation poisoning, more vodka. Obesity, more Red Bull. Just kill a hostage, more vodka. Falling asleep, walking through the more Red Bull. Need to turn a 2 into an 8? More vodka. Battling asthmatic, shortness of breath? More Red Bull. Radioactive hurricane coming? More vodka. Bear flying at you? More vodka. Don't know why the individual? More vodka.
It was terrible.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Thanks to the bulk up pimps for bankrolling this video, and another huge thanks to all the pimpers for buying me all this vodka so I could get into roll. Many more videos coming soon. Alright, bye. Do you enjoy having high levels of cortisol in your brain? Here it comes. Would you like to spend 10 hours grinding a character only to die because it's too dark to find the exit to the room? And you said yes, sure, or ye roof. Shout out to the Brits out there. Look no further than Project Zomboid. Project Zomboid is the newest latest strip and fall simulator constructed as a service to raise your blood pressure and induce aneurysms. A game where guns are useless air horns and frying pans reign as the supreme tools for zombie genocide. You play as a Kentuckian whom you must craft yourself, going through the arduous process of deciding what will go into your Twitter bio and what will define your character as a survivor in the brave new world. This is a game where you can do everything or do nothing and equally accomplish the same main mission of the game. However, a free tip for the aspiring Chad is to avoid running when you're exhausted, or you will trip and die, which is the most bitch-made way to die in this game. I mean, not that I would know anything about that. Now join me as I talk about this version of Minecraft made for fully grown masochists that will get you so addicted that you will stop eating, drinking, and sleeping in real life so that you can do all those things in game instead. Character creation in this game is essentially just choosing how mentally ill you want your character to be in order to get self-improvement, and you will then reinvest these points into choosing just how much of a flawless Sigma male you want yourself to be. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before you do any of that, you must choose an occupation. I almost exclusively play burglar and engineer.
Start praying, boy.
And don't worry, if you don't, it's okay. You know, it's not a crime to be a fucking imbecile. Moving back to the trait screen, it's all about trade-offs. If you want to be the big strong man, then unfortunately you have to become an Italian. And if you want any other redeeming qualities on top of that, then it's time you decide just how high you value the ability to read. In my eyes, there are 3 goated ailments: being deaf, being claustrophobic, and being agoraphobic. Deaf is a given.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Everything is quiet until a jump scare plays at maximum volume. Then there's being claustrophobic, which means you are afraid of Germans, and being indoors. Specifically being in the doors of small houses where the poor people live. When in warehouses or mansions, all of a sudden they aren't claustrophobic anymore, exposing that they are really just elitists that hate poor people. And then there's being a gamer that upon going outside and touching the grass will quickly devolve into a full-scale panic. Choosing the reasons for why you despise yourself is quite hard, so at first you will likely err to the side of caution by only choosing a few good and a few bad. However, play for the next 20 hours and you'll soon be saying, I was just reading through the Reddit and I've got a real nice meta build coming together, brother. If I pair Thirsty Fuck without a shade, curvy and with slow healers with hardy everything, then I can finally have the app traits to live long enough to level my mechanic skills and finally get a car. If you're not ready for that level of commitment, then get off this battle bus and go spin up a random character. Random characters can be just as fun as custom characters because it's a completely randomly generated story every time. Allow me to give you a quick example. They once gave me a gymnast doctor who loved the great outdoors, fishing, hunting, but also being out of shape, smoking, and being a weak beta male. After 2 hours of being alive, he stopped in at a Motel 6 to rest his lungs, but upon leaving, a horde of zombies tripped him and he fell to the ground and was torn limb from limb. He lived a Chad life and he died a Chad death 6 hours in, an inspiration for youth everywhere. A statue will be constructed in his honor when the new world comes to life. Combat in this game captures the brutality that you would see in famous zombie movies. Sometimes you might get a clean one-hit kill if you're moodle free, but as your mental health declines, you'll have to multiply the hits to kill by like 10. Because mental ailments and exhaustion can turn a fine blade into a balloon sword, and you'd be lucky if you could even give a zombie a haircut with this shit. I mean, look at this. Not to mention, these situations bathe the room in blood, and you may kill the zombie. However, what are the untold effects that this will have on your mind? You're definitely developing a horrible hard case of PS4D in the future. Anyways, there are two situations for combat that you'll find yourself in. You're either fighting a couple of zombies, or you're fighting every single zombie there is. Luckily, if it's only one zombie, you can pretty easily just tip them over and give them the old whippity. But if it's all the zombies, the council advises you to run as far away as humanly possible, and then run a little further, because the house you just tried to break in is protected by an ADT house alarm. You should have checked the lawn first. And although there is a chance that you can take out a solid group of zombies when paired with the right weapon, there are more chances that you will die. If you hurt your foot, you will die. If you trip, you will die. And if you're fortunate, you'll live long enough to see the top right of your screen light up like a fucking Christmas tree, and your swings will have the speed and punching power of a geriatric athlete with joint pain, leading you to waddle for your life as a horde of zombies are 6 inches off of your back, desperately reaching for your cheeks. So the next time the council tells you to run from the horde, you run from the horde. Now let's dive deeper into the good stuff, the weapons of micro-destruction, so to speak. Starting with melee, shovels are the best hybrid since God created the Hyundai Elantra. It's an eco-friendly solution that can both kill zombies and bury them immediately after. Simply put, this shit is fresh. Then we have the sledgehammer. The sledgehammer is the best thing since God created the shovel. Nothing exhausts you completely like the sledgehammer, and nothing can cave in a skull like the full sledgehammer. You've seen this thing around before in hit games like Tom Clancy's Pride 7 Paradise, the greatest FPS game of all time according to IGN, and the performance here today doesn't disappoint either. Cave in a skull, then knock down some walls or garage doors and shit just to demonstrate your masculinity in front of the zombies. You know what? S tier. Sledgehammer for president. Finally, for melee weapons, we have the frying pan. This is the best thing since God created the sledgehammer. You can cook with it, you can kill with it, and you can pray with it. Sun Tzu always said he uses the frying pan to defeat his enemies, and now so can you for the low price of $5.99. Now let's talk about guns in this game. I won't be giving a top 3 guns watch mojo list because almost every gun in the vanilla game belongs in the trash. I only like one gun, and that's the shotgun. This shotgun is the only gun in this game that actually understands the assignment and does what it is told to do. I point, I shoot. The zombies die, simple as that. Now try to do that again with a pistol, or a rifle, or a magnum. You can't. Not unless you are so specced into aim that you look down the sight and see the fucking future because you are a deadeye and a prophet. And if you are, I bet you can't tell me the numbers on the front of your mom's credit card and the 3 special digits on the back. That wasn't a question. You better start talking. Alright, anyways, I'll spare your ears from the 5-minute rant I just cut out about how bad pistols are. I just need you to take one more look at this for me. Do I really need to say anything else here? Wear as many coats and shirts as your mortal soul will allow you to wear. The health and staying alive aspects of this game are incredibly realistic, as I can now take up a pill addiction and maintain my alcoholism, which is actually a pretty solid strat for surviving in a zombie-infested world, by the way. When I get a little panicky, I take my beta blockers, and the testosterone comes running back into my veins. My hairline stops receding, and I go from beta to sigma male just like that. When I get tired, I take my night-night pills and collapse on the floor. And when I get a little depressed, I take up an alcohol addiction because it hits the trifecta of good living. For an original development team of only a small group of Brits and Canucks, they really nailed the American healthcare system. Then there's the ouchies side of health. Now I'm going to be really honest with you here. I originally made this whole section of the video where I really broke down the health and ouchies part of, you know, keeping your character alive. And then after actually making all of it, I watched it back and realized, yeah, I was completely fucking wrong about almost all of it. So instead of reading the wiki and trying to regurgitate it to you, I'll tell you what I know for sure instead. If you sustain a workplace injury that gets infected, don't worry about it. They go away. This has never killed me. But now if you sustain a zombie-related injury that makes you queasy, you better start preparing your final rites because you're going to get an at-home checkup from the Avengers real soon. Unless, of course, you take my miracle cure. That's right. I, faceless YouTube man that you can totally trust, with a doctorate that I just made in MS Paint, have the cure to zombification. Now, first I grabbed 3 bottles of bleach and then I chugged that shit. Food is also a critical part of survival.
Oh, hot dog!
In the beginning of the game, you have all the food, but eventually the power grid collapses, leading all of the milk to spoil, along with any other fresh meat, fresh fruit. Pretty much anything that you should keep in fridges will spoil and nothing will remain. Sure, you could farm, trap your fish, but what am I? Who am I? Where am I? On Bill Gates' farmland? What am I gonna do? Plant plants and wait for them to grow like some fool? And then cook it up in a fresh meal? Hell no, in fact. I once tried to cook a dish and I accidentally poured bleach in it because it quickly popped up in the pasta preparation menu. At which point I said, what? Am I gonna scoop that out with my hands or something? No, I cooked that shit and I ate it like a goddamn red-blooded American. And I died like a goddamn red-blooded American about 5 minutes later. There's only one good option in the apocalypse, and that's canned beans. Bush's baked beans are the true zombie apocalypse food of the NBA. They satiate, they carb load, and there's a high content of vitamin D. Canned beans are S tier, no doubt about it. I'll also give honorable mentions to other canned products such as peas, spaghetti bolognese, and Lay's chips. That's it on food. With everyone dead and you alone, there are so many options for where you should hang your hat in these troubling times. One option is to colonize a grocery store and barricade all the windows and doors so that no one can get in and you have exclusive reign over the pop section. However, doing this without proper experience can lead to a horde of shoppers raiding your home, forcing you to quickly abandon it because you have no clue how to defend against a horde. Option 2 is living in your car like a true baller. Car living is for wealthy men only. See this 1986 Acura Integra? You know why they call it that? Because it takes integrity to live in it. If Jesus was here today, he wouldn't have lived in a church's chicken. He would have lived in the Integra. It's got pockets for days, rolling storage, great gas mileage, good speeds, and you can drive it with only 3% engine condition and just keep flicking the engine back on as it fails. The whip never dies, it multiplies. It's car living or no living for this guy. Option 4 is building your own home. This is not a great option. I spent my whole playthrough looking forward to building a home with my own two hands. Two hands Tommy, they call me, just fondling planks and laying pipe. However, after putting down all the needed floors, walls, and windows, I went to go throw up the roof when I discovered there are no roofs in this game. My dream was a lie, life was a lie, and the only way to make a roof was by placing floors on the roof, and the only way to do that would be making stairs, which requires level 6 carpentry. Too much carpentry, bad option. Option 3 is a good old pillow fort. Impenetrable, durable, no girls allowed, zombies be damned, no one is getting in here. Option 2 is reinforcing an affluent man's home over in the suburbs. This is much better than reinforcing a grocery store because it's usually a low traffic area and you can have things like a garage, better schools, and multiple stories. In fact, you don't even have to reinforce the first floor of a rich home because you can just put some ropes out the second floor windows, pull out that big hammer of yours, knock down those stairs, and now no one can get up to your room. However, eventually those ropes will be destroyed and you will not be home when it happens, breaking the only passage to get to your stuff. Fuck this shit, I'm moving back into my whip. There are an abundance of options when it comes to cars in Project Zomboid. There are vans, sedans, lowriders, trucks, and sports cars. As you already know, I feel very strongly about their dominance in the mobile living game, but I will heed great warning to those that enjoy fast driving. I've died many times at the wheel, crashing into various trees. I'm talking pine, oak, Christmas birch, you name it, I've crashed into. Additionally, if there are giant mounds of bodies conveniently laid in the street, it is 100% possible that you can send your car flipping violently if you do a sharp turn over said convenient bodies. So, yes, watch out for that. Additionally, I would avoid driving into crowds of zombies with your car in Project Zombie. Make that real clear. A much better alternative is doing donuts to wipe out a horde with the size of your car. You can maintain much better momentum and defy the laws of physics while paving over your enemy's 10 out of 10 strat right here. Now, actually getting a car is about as easy as everything else in this game, meaning not at all. Did you choose burglar as your occupation? Good for you! Now all you have to do is find an operational car, find a fuel can for that car, find another car with gas to fill up the fuel can for that car, and hope it never breaks because you sure as shit can't fix it, you fucking idiot.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Did you not choose
Stupid
burglar
son
as
of a
your
bitch.
occupation? Well, now you must level both your mechanical to level 2 and your electrical to level 1. I have no clue how to level electrical
Stupid
because
son
I
of a
only
bitch.
play engineer. However, leveling mechanics can be done by tearing driver's seats out of cars along with windows, trunks, doors, and everything else, then placing them back on. Reading a book on it helps, but finding mechanics for beginners is about as easy as finding the sequel to the Bible. Anyways, once you've got all that leveled, you do the same things as the burglar to get a car, and now you are home free to start driving. Now, my first experience driving went a little something like this. I whipped out the whip, drove it immediately into a fence, then into a tree, then into another tree, and then I was home free on I-75, not a care in the world. Hair flowing in the wind, full speed ahead, when I crashed into a police roadblock, still manned by the police, by the way, and totaled the car. It took 20 hours to get my first car and 2 minutes to lose it. But what a ride it was. You see, my favorite thing about Project Zomboid is that one playthrough takes place all in the same world, kind of like the MCU or the Bible. By the way, you wouldn't believe how long it took for me to figure that one out. I thought I was just constantly running into vaguely familiar people with a lot of gear on them.
I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of retarded.
This, therefore, makes spawning in the same town repeatedly increasingly more difficult because you keep loading up your characters and then sending them to trip, fall, and die in the midst of a horde. But what this also unlocks is an opportunity. An opportunity to find your old character, kill them, and gain back whatever was on them at the time of their death. Although I would pretend this is very emotional, most of the time it's just too damn funny how I died and what I must do to get all my stuff back. For example, one dark and lonely night, much like every night in Project Zomboid, by the way, I was stealing gas from a car outside of a chicken fillet when a horde snuck up on me because they're famously very light-footed and feather-light. I then tried to quickly run back to my car, but the prompt to hop in was not popping up, and I couldn't see for shit, so I was quickly surrounded and brutally murdered. Very angry, I now immediately sent my next character to kill the old character over at the KFC up the street. However, this character tripped while looking for our man like the clumsy fucking fool he is and died. The next attempt ended similarly as our man jumped into the Zaxby's window and was quickly crushed by the clown car of zombies that followed him in. Now entering the third stage of grief, I begin barking. All I need to do is just get a shotgun and then I can go run back to that Popeyes and plug our man, then loot his body later. Easy as that. When I entered the establishment, I ran in the door, shot ourselves smack dab in the chest, watched him fall to the ground, and then tripped and died in the corner. But being the buffoon I am, I was pumping my fist and rejoicing. You and I just saw me kill him. The next bit is easy, I thought. So I sent the next guy back to that Bojangles restaurant, yelled something about the American healthcare system, and all the Americans stood up and began running out of the Cluck and Bell, chasing me up the street. I then stampeded the massive horde into an IHOP where they got distracted by the new Mexican Tres Leches heart-stopping Mega Maximo combo, and I was able to sneak around the back and return to the Raising Cane's fried chicken establishment. Yet upon getting inside, I noticed the body of our old character wasn't there. The shotgun blast didn't kill him, and now he probably Hannibal Lectered his way out of the restaurant and into the wild where I would never see him ever again. This was a solid hour I lost enthralled in this little side story involving fried chicken, revenge, and shotguns, an experience you simply cannot get in any other game. The modding community for this game is awesome. There are so many mods that can completely change and improve the game to be whatever experience you want it to be. British Weapon Pack adds many new guns like LMGs, miniguns, RPGs, and even some guns from movies like John Wick and games like Escape from Tarkov, another masochistic game I love playing.
Yeah.
Then there are ones such as my man Filibuster, who adds tons of new cars to the game and swaps them out for vanilla cars to make for some unexpectedly hilarious encounters when exploring the world. But my favorite mods are the meme ones crafted by people who've also lost their minds and are descending into mania. Mods exist that do things like make every loose item in the world a comically large object that has no business being that large, and consequently also breaking the game and opening black holes in the map. You can turn jump scare noises into meme sound effects such as the Vine Boom, BitConnect, Dr. Phil, and many more. You can make headshots play the bonk sound effect or play the Yoda death noise upon your death in game. Add folding chairs as weapons, add traits for schizophrenia and Tourette's, or add boomboxes that add real-life copyrighted music to the game so that you can gun down a zombie horde to Feliz Navidad or perhaps Country Roads by John Colorado. I could keep going forever, but there are just too many good mods to keep listing. With the latest update, now multiplayer is a thing and you can learn just how many ways you can be killed by your friends. Alright, real quick, I'm just curious, is there friendly fire? Let's just run down the list of some pretty common ones, shall we? You know, everyday occurrences, multiplayer, real run-of-the-mill stuff. Could happen to anyone. You can be shot in the back of the head with 12 gauge on accident. You can be bit and put to death by a firing squad of LMG spray. You can just be having a gaffe, closing the door on your friend repeatedly, and then be shot in the chest. Please, please, just a prank. You may get into a little bit of a heated loot altercation. Or perhaps be forced to choke bleach at gunpoint, after which the assailant will then set the house on fire to hide the evidence, run through that fire, therefore catching themselves on fire, and then running into the darkness where seconds later you will hear a faint noise of death. Alternatively, your friend may try to run you over in their sports car, to which you will shoot an RPG into their front windshield, kill them, and then shortly after die yourself. But how? Let's hop into the booth and take another look. As you can see right here in slow-mo, we kill the driver, but then the car keeps rolling towards us and then bumps into us, causing us to stumble and fire another rocket into the air. And as we are still stumbling, it floats delicately into the air, abiding to Newton's law of grenades, and then lands, blowing me up and the two zombies behind me, leaving everyone very dead. Finally, another very common scenario is being hit by a van and pinned underneath it, luring many zombies around the car trying to get at you, at which point your friend will then leave you to die, generously coming back to throw creepy sirens that attract more zombies, then leaving, and coming back to throw Molotovs that kill you and leaving, then coming back once more to light them up with a grenade launcher, killing everyone else. And to top it all off, they will have the audacity to move the car, stand over the bodies, then ask, "Hey man, you still alive?" He was then caught on fire and died himself. 10 out of 10. Project Zomboid is brutal, relentless, and will cause you untold mental instability and incredibly high blood pressure at times. But the constant immersion and pain and struggle makes this survival game more challenging and more rewarding than any other game on the market. You must leave this video knowing that this game is a goddamn masochistic masterpiece, and I highly recommend that anyone that hasn't tried this game try it now for the low price of $20. And if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. You are the best thing ever made since God created frying pans. I got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless Super Earth and Pills. Start your First, rivals crashed our player count, then they crashed our earnings, now they're biting into our fan project market. We need ideas, gentlemen. How about we make an Overwatch sequel where we lower the teams from 6 to 5, make you grind for characters, nerf the ults, and promise a PvE mode but never deliver it full? Damn it, Johnson, we already did that and the people loved it. What else? How about we just put actual hardcore porn into the next game, huh? Well, yank on my dick and call me Sally. You're a genius, Billy. Titty milk on me, everyone. Hey, put that Claymore in. The hero shooter genre is dog shit. Just ask any Overwatch fan. In every hero shooter, the enemies are too spongy, the gunplay sucks, the characters are unbalanced, and teamwork only gets done if you have friends, so that's out the window. But if they're all equally shit, what makes one succeed above the other? The roster. In the hero shooter genre, the game with the best roster gets the most fan projects, which means the most free marketing. It's just like Frank Sherbert said in Coom Messiah, he who controls the fan projects controls the microtransactions. Did you really think this was all about merit? Come on. Overwatch has been dominating in spite of its own shitty self for the last decade. And all they had to do was throw some cake at the dogs, look the other way, and prop. Battleborn and Overwatch are two hero shooters that came out on the same day. Have you ever even heard of Battleborn? Exactly. Don't answer. Exactly. I'm right, you're wrong. Exactly, because you never scrolled by it on the hub. When Sony tried knocking off Overwatch, they forgot the secret ingredient. They thought the king of comorbidities was gonna bring people in. And now Dawes, ginormous ass, is 6 feet and 600 pounds below, keeping those worms big as hell. Whereas Paladin's limping along at over triple Concord's peak players 8 years after their release. And I'll give you one guess why. Good roster, fan projects, profit. As for me personally, I've never played Paladins in my life, but I've seen it. Whoa,
I have,
boy,
for about 100 hours.
Will I ever play it? No. But that's only because I'd rather get car bombed in Fallujah than play another goddamn hero shooter. What I'm saying is this, bring that camera close. All these people keep trying to make an Overwatch killer when what they need to be making is an Overwatch fan project killer. See, that's the whole engine behind this shit. No one understands this. No one, except for the king of knockoffs, China. Pizza, OFC, Boreo, Abidas, Alibaba, Temu. They're knocking off their own knockoff websites. Everything on Wish. This shit's a home game for them. And it's not that other countries don't do it, we just don't do it as well. Because knocking something off is an art form learned over centuries. It's an art so precise that Blizzard couldn't even knock themselves off. Not only did NetEase do what Blizzard couldn't by successfully knocking off Overwatch, but they also did what Sony and $400 million couldn't by making a roster that doesn't look like they just stumbled out of a Jaguar commercial. Then you know what they did? I'll tell you what they did. They made the models, quote, more detailed so that it would be even easier for the fans to knock off those Overwatch films you like. Call it a conspiracy theory, but I do believe
This
we're
thing just
witnessing an
appeared out
attempt
of
to
nowhere.
overthrow
Jack.
Overwatch's reign on the nocturnal film market. This is a coup d'etat for my surrender speakers in the audience. Overwatch is getting slammed big time. And for once, it's not Tracer, May, or Widowmaker taking the blow. NetEase just opened up Pandora's box, and now the Marvel Cinematic Universe is about to get 10,000 new movies. Alright, enough yapping. Let's get into the actual review. Marvel Rivals is eating Overwatch's lunch. And I say that as someone that used to be a massive fan of Overwatch. I was a fanatic back in the day. Whereas some people had 2,000 or 3,000 hours, I had 50 to 60 minutes. So when I say this game is better than Overwatch, that is a testament to its quality. Marvel Rivals is a stunning display of confidence. It's proof that if you're a developer with a basic grip on reality, then you too could be laundering over $100 million by next Kwanzaa. If you like hero shooters, you're gonna love this game. If you have good taste, you're gonna love the finals. Now before we get into the gameplay, I'm no clickbaiter, so here's your detailed breakdown of why Concord could never beat Marvel Rivals in today's market. Take it away, Flipa World News!
Come on, man.
Welcome to Flipa World News. Today in gaming, the reason why Chubby Chaser Overwatch will never beat Marvel Rivals is because Marvel Rivals is alive and Concord is not. Well, that about wraps it up for Flipa World News. I'll see you all next week. Now let's get into the full review. Have you played Overwatch? It's like that. Thanks to the flock of pimps for bankrolling this video, and another huge thanks to all the pimpers for buying me every crab skin in Path of Exile 2. Also, special shout out to brother Pimp Malik over there on Twitter for helping us give Fleek a nice little facelift. Thank you, Pimp! Alright, I gotta go. I got an addiction to feed. Pimps, I am back! You've probably been wondering where I went. Well, I've been correcting the timeline, ensuring that everything is as it should be. And although I won't say the correction of the timeline was all me, I will say that none of this could have happened without me. I would never say that I'm the whole car. I play a very small part in this. The engine. But now, speaking of cars, imagine if I pretended to be a Ferrari salesman, sold you an Enzo, and then handed you the keys to a Ford Taurus. Imagine if Tom Cruise reached out to you through email and told you that only you could save Mission Impossible 20 by sending him $200 in iTunes gift cards. Imagine if a very real Kate Upton matched with you on Tinder and then plied you into sending her $2,000 to her offshore account at the Punjab National Bank. And imagine, if you will, your favorite game company brings back a franchise you love for a fantastic return to roots. Surely all of these are real. Real Tom Cruise, real Kate Upton, real return to roots. Except they're not, you dumb bitch. All of these are catfishing scams and you couldn't even spot them. Don't worry, you may be stupid, but you're not alone. Just in 2023, consumers were catfished out of $2.7 billion. How did that happen? Is that all just grandma getting scammed by Indian guys pretending to be Bill Gates? Maybe that makes up for about $1.7 billion. But where's the other $1 billion in imposter scams
Gamers.
coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from. The AAA gaming industry. The AAA gaming industry is the third biggest catfishing operation behind Indian call centers and Snapchat filters. They just cannot stop themselves from bringing back old IPs that they killed off, only to just make whatever the fuck they want anyways with no regard for the original formula. And the people that get left holding the bag are the fans, because they show up on launch day to buy a new entry from their favorite franchise, only to discover that this shit couldn't be any further from the originals. Like swiping right on Beyonce and showing up only to see Big Mama. They have been catfished. But at least they can look forward to the next Fable game. Psych! Hey look, a new God of War game. Psych! Hey look, another Saints Row game. Psych! Another Dragon Age game. Psych! A new Assassin's Assassin's Creed games. Psych! Oh, hey, sorry for catfishing you just then. Here's an actual return to roots. We're very sorry about that. Double psych FromSoft fans! Just click off the video already. You wouldn't understand. With your constant stream of great games to stick to a formula you love, you lucky bastards. I wish I liked CBT so I could bask in this glory with you. FromSoft is so dedicated to not catfishing their fans that if they change the formula even a little bit, they change the name of the game as well. If this was Ubisoft, these would all be called Dark Souls. You guys have it so good that you have to catfish yourselves. Remember, about persistence. And you know what that means, Bloodborne fans. Bloodborne Remastered announcement coming December 12th at 8:14 p.m.
Get your sacrifices ready.
And that leads me to another form of catfishing, the Bethesda type of catfishing. This is when they use their name and their history to dig into that nostalgic mudvein of yours, trying to transfer the clout from their old games to their new ones. We're BioWare, we're Bethesda, we're Obsidian, we're Rocksteady. Remember all those games we made and you loved back when you were happy and before you only got to see Daddy on the weekends? Well, this is brought to you by the same people that brought you that. Except it is not. This game was made by the same logo that made those good old games. The people that made them left the logo 10 years ago and got replaced by a bunch of Jaguar drivers. And they try to tell me that there's still staff on board from the original game. Who? The fucking janitors? Let's play a fun little game real quick. What if I told you the baker behind Bayonetta and Nier Automata was making another game? He'd probably throw 70 singles up in the air and see where they land, right? They would land on Babylon's Fall. What if I told you the guys behind Dishonored were cooking up something new? You'd probably think it's at least a 7 out of 10, right?
Right.
Redfall. And what if I told you the creator of New Vegas was making a new game? You'd probably be very interested in what deep RPG they're cooking up next. In New Vegas, you had 3 different flavors of 50 cal. I mean, where can we go from here? The resounding answer, backward. Now your sniper rifle and your grenade launcher share gun enthusiasts' favorite caliber, heavy ammo. As it turns out, duct tape 8 rounds of 308 together, it turns into a grenade launcher shell. It's a regular war zone out here, pimp. Nobody is who they...
Pimp? So weird. I'll be right back. I'm going to get something to eat. As to what I eat. Okay, sorry about that. Pop this bag of chips. There we are.
Say they are. The other day I reunited with THQ only to reach down her pants and grab a handful of Nord dick. Turns out THQ went defunct in 2013 and Nordic bought it a year later so they could parade it around like Lincoln's corpse. Who does that? Austrians. And if you think that's bad, now they're using entire genres to catfish. RPG used to be a proper category. It used to stand for something. It used to mean shitty combat and a fuck ton of player choice. These days I buy an RPG and I end up in 40 hours of therapy. And not even as the therapied on, but as the therapist. Take me back to telling Alistar he has no bitches. I don't want to be here. Which brings us to Dragon Age the Veilguard, a game so good that as soon as the post-launch clarity hit, all the launch day reviewers flipped and called it dog shit. I'm calling it now. Veilguard is the biggest catfish of the generation. Not only does Veilguard not resemble a Dragon Age game, it doesn't resemble a BioWare game, it doesn't resemble an RPG. Now can you even look me in my eyes and call this a fantasy game when there isn't a single dwarf being racist towards an elf in this piece of shit?
You knife-eared pipe cleaner.
Let's get a round of applause for BioWare, everyone. Rarely do you see incompetence done this right. This is generational incompetence, truly once in a lifetime. Veilguard is like Dragon Age for Coco Melon fans. It came into my home, beat my eyes, bounced them off the walls, then threw them down the stairs and treated my eardrums like trampolines. It's like they took everything that made Dragon Age and decided to do the polar opposite. But am I shocked by this? No, everything I said in my first video was right. And I knew it would be right because the gaming industry has catfished me so many times before. That being said, I'm still waiting for Stalker 2 to finish getting patched up, so fuck it, let's clown on this for a bit while I wait. That means I got probably about a year left on this review. First off, the combat is every bit as enthralling, engaging, and incredible as I thought it'd be. Why not build on the classic CRPG Todd wrangling combat as fans have been asking for since the second game? Fuck the fans, nobody plays CRPGs anymore. But when I play this, I feel like I'm experiencing a new level of strategic depth as I combine fast-paced attacks, parries, and dodges to exploit my enemy's weakness, stone railings. But none of this would have been possible without my loyal sewing circle. I'm joking, of course. They are completely useless outside of the one skill wheel use I get from them every 45 seconds. I understand now why they made them invincible. They are total morons. This game must take place in 1986 before Street Fighter invented the combo, because these dumbass companions practice the ancient art of hitting these motherfuckers one time for 11 damage in the most elaborate way possible, then wandering off. Somebody hand me a towel so I can throw it in. This is the type of shit that happens when you turn off natural selection, and that's why I just stick to the reliable ranged fighters like Marty.
Harding's right. This requires a good scout.
I'll take care of it.
As for the writing on these companions, what can I say that hasn't already been said by everybody for the last month? It's 35 to 100 hours of 8 people with negative riz delivering dialogue that has been safety screened into ash. The CIA should put all this dialogue into a montage and use it to break captives. These friendships sound like they were written by people who have never had friends. Where's the ball busting? Where's the disagreements?
If you want to bed me, you have only to ask. What? Draw your weapon and say that again. I jest, my foul-smelling friend. You are only slightly less attractive to me than a slime-filled pool of swamp water.
The eerie constant positivity and wooden line reads makes me feel like I'm in the Manson family, not a found family. They want you to all be bestest friends so badly that they provide no way to antagonize or lose your companions until the very end when they went, oh shit, that's right, we're a BioWare game. I chose to give this man's hometown full-blown AIDS, and 3 hours later we're chopping it up about his coffee recipes like it never even happened. And don't even get me started on Tosh.
Actually, Tashi's is them for themselves now.
They asked us to let folks know.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you for telling me. Tosh, you up for it? Yup.
You don't ever interrupt God's mistake with dear when he's talking. Anyone else? And that leads me to another thing I want to talk about. These puzzles. All these puzzles are piss babies. And my entire time playing the game, there was only one that I couldn't figure out. Who the hell am I? Somebody please tell me who the fuck I am. Some people have the gender card. I have the gender deck. Some people call me bro. Some people call me she. And on the back end, I'm God's mistake, Lady.
God's mistake. Who's that? This character does look pretty fucking funny. God's mistake, Lydia.
Man, she, her to look at. I think I actually found out what happened.
Man, she, her to look at.
I tried to join my soul sister Tosh in becoming a free agent. I think I accidentally hit the factory.
What the hell is this character? His character is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
He said button and became a man again. Look at that. Another Veilguard puzzle solved in less than 60 seconds. I never should have looked in that mirror. Speaking of which, I know we've already talked about the budget cuts in the last video, but let's all blow our pipes for a second to mourn the loss of Isabella's massive milkers. Now, for the record, I was planning to do more side quests, but then I found out you get the best ending by not doing any of them. If you neglect every companion's quest line, you unlock a special ending where everyone dies. Let me think about if I want to do that real quick.
I don't understand why you're bringing so many books.
I don't see what your
We're only
objections
going
are.
for 2 days. Emily wants to see more Ferelden, so
Dear heart.
give it. But he's treating it because you have to and every now and
When they did this in Mass Effect 2, it was pretty depressing when my companions died because I liked them. Here, it's cathartic. I invited my whole family to watch this shit over Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm not just talking my immediate family, I'm talking cousins, in-laws, their pugs.
Oh, jingle bells, jingle
I
bells.
invited the whole flock of pimps, Fleek Harvey, Dr. Philly, Fleek Vietti, Preacher's Order,
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle
Fleek Jones, Fleek Rogan,
all the way.
Excuse me, can I please bite a chunk out of that apple?
a Canadian guy, Fat Albert, dog, get your big ass in here. Can't fit through the door? Ah, another year of unemployment, you'll be able to squeeze in just fine. You can come in too, S.S. Fleek.
Merry Christmas, Xbox.
Sir, get down! Sir, get down!
And that was the last of the research for this video. While it kicks in, let me spin you a tale, my good pimp. It's Saturday at 12 a.m., a promising new day, and you're out there bouncing in the club to dodging cars, or I Spy, or Skibbity Toilet, whatever devil music the youth bounces to. The point is, you're dancing, like Al Pacino and Scarface just busting it down, turning that rave into a ravenous monsoon, you with me? But you want to turn up the energy. You want to turn on that gas oven and make some s'mores. Maybe you want to make some YouTube videos. So you have two options. Option number one, Ministry of Love is my witness. I do not condone it. The white snow, the devil's dick cheese, the Eddie's dandruff, the Eddie's Parmesan sprinkles, book of sugar, that short layover in Lockjaw City, all for a brief moment of worse so back. All before a heavy come down, it's all over. A temporary shortcut to feeling like you're the king shit before you shortcut through a family of 4 on your way home. And that's where option 2 comes in. Officer Fleek says say no to drugs and say yes to flexible suggestions of engagement policies.
What exactly is your child carrying in addition to a book? Something simple as a crack pipe.
Ron takes place in totally not Hollywood, which explains why half the maps are you dropping.
Something so simple as a crack pipe.
In concept, it's a SWAT 5 simulator where you play as an armed observer saving civvies and dropping baddies, but only if they get antsy first. However, in reality, you know, the real world where there's real dolphins and shit, it's you getting hip-fire headshot by a furry's 20-man security detail. It's you going, oh, let me use the stairs. It's the you know, dead because this fuck was born out of the great darkness with the sole mission to shoot me in the cock. But even when they surrender and I try to be all judicial about it, they change nationalities on me. Even Stacy's shivving me, acting like I don't believe in equality. These AI are so committed to the bit that they will get killed so that they can come back to life and not surrender for a second time. Whereas the Lord's powder can make the snake recoil, you know, the flag go to half-mast, cook the spaghetti noodles, so to speak. Ready or not's gonna keep you rock hard because these AI are constantly fucking you. I waited a year for this update only to die to the same broken AI with a new gun in my hands on different soil. But here's the thing, fighting these spastic sons of bitches is the high. I live to kick open that door and draw down like it's a scene straight out of Justified. To lock eyes with a perp on perks, then persecute them with my big iron. And the more wiry the beast, the bigger the rush I get from it. One better and more frequent than headbutting Tony Montana's desk. Have you heard the scientists say how Ready or Not's gunfights have so much tense buildup and bombastic payoff that it actually mirrors the dopamine release that our ancestors got from hunting? Almost like we're tricking our biology into giving us a fix that's actually higher than that of Colombian table salt. Because I have not. I'm just saying it's possible. You should look for it. You should look it up. If nothing else, the fix is much cheaper. Booger Sugar is gonna burn a hole in your septum and make you a real yapaholic. Get you talking to everybody in the club about your plans to make a water park without the water. I mean, still not as bad as what the blue stuff did. I mean, that created the Volkswagen. I mean, at worst, Ready or Not will have you staring blankly out of the window thinking about how, you know, it should have been me that walked through the door that day. You know, how Gibby had 2 years left on the force. You know, he never made it home to kiss the dog and play with the wife. 'Cause of me. Rest in peace, Gibby. If Pablo was still here, he could have sold Ready or Not to all the Florida men completely legally. A high without the time. Hey, what I'm trying to say is this. Don't buy this game for a realistic police sim. Buy this game as a police-themed version of Doom, where instead of killing sinners in hell, you send sinners to hell. I do believe it was Austin 3:16 that said 24 mags should be enough to maintain the peace.
We don't negotiate with terrorists.
Oh, I bet you thought you were done with me, motherfucker! But Blake Harvey's wife cheated on him with the chef and now she's leaving me.
There's no ads in these videos, which is kind of cool.
So this is a new show to pay my alimony called Lying Bitches. For the last 2 years, Flake Harvey has enjoyed torturing milsim loppers by going into public lobbies with AI mods that turn everyone into Navy SEAls and British people. But now that the regular AI has become almost as bad as my mods, you have to guess whether the clip you see is modded or unmodded. Here we go.
I'll zip it up.
Jeff, what do you think? And work dick somewhere into your answer. My dick, fool. Oh my God! Get the shit! The shit! The FTC has my family hostage. They have shot my dog. Your wife is in the audience tonight. I hope you lose it all, Hefe. Just like I did. Unmodded, folks. Lying bitches will be right back after these messages. And before you tell me, oh, Officer Fleek, what about ROE? I don't know. What about ROE? Boy. Being a SWAT officer, one acronym you'll hear very often is ROE. This means Rules of Engagement. Now, there's a whole lot of them, too many if you ask me. But basically, don't shoot unless shot or definitively about to be shot. Violate this rule, buddy, and your wrist will be thoroughly slapped. But in Ready or Not, there is only one rule of engagement you need to know, and that is engage. I will personally gift you a shake, weight, and a crisp high five if you can catch an unauthorized use of lethal force charge, because these tweakers crave the great beyond. I mean, just look at these savages. Do you see them checking to see if you're one of their teammates before they start firing? Do you see them gabbing you up to see if you're one of the good ones? Because I'll tell you what I see. I see a motherfucker shooting at me from the poolside as he gets his bronze on. I see a fella coming out of the closet to give me back shots, and it ain't even June yet. Whatever J.O. crystals these AI are on has them shooting through 3 walls if they even feel your aura in the building. And if you ask me, that sounds like a violation of rule number 2, and that is why you will almost never catch a case. The fact that I still do is a testament to my talent as an officer. What should scare you is that I still rarely get these. Hesitation is defeat. But by all means, have at it, Liam Neeson. See if you can piss him into submission. No justice, no piss, brother. Be well. I'll be in the other room giving this one a goddamn 45 caliber exorcism. My mind is telling me no, but my I believe in this so much that I even made my non-lethal shotgun lethal. Wake up before you get put to sleep. Besides, I ran some more scientific tests, and as it would turn out, you can go full body cams off and still unlock the next level. The grade means nothing, unless you want to unlock the Hawaiian shirt so that you can flex on your enemies. Oh, don't shoot the messenger. You wouldn't want to violate ROE, would you? What if the messenger shoots you? That's my point. That's all I'm trying to tell you, pimp. I just care about you. We are back with lying bitches, this time with a new clip. Let's roll it.
28 stab wounds.
Rudy, you're rough. Nah, I think that's modded footage for like... Oh my God, Rudy! Lord, Rudy, Jesus fucking Christ, Rudy! I want to crucify you and make a new religion all around you, Rudy! Rudy, is that your son in the audience there? Little Rudy, tell me something. Why is your father such a failure? I know this isn't on the board. All that being said, how does the lead slinging feel, you ask? Every board is like a happy ending. The sparks, the blood, the bullet holes, the puffs of smoke out of the gun, the loud crackling shots, the heavy recoil, paired with the screen shake and the blurring if you're getting shot right back, and that beautiful premature ejac tech evac flicking the mag at the wall. Not to mention the crisp, infatuating leaning functionalities, paired with an even deeper stationary lean. All this power is intoxicating. And it's galaxies better than the electric inability to aim, gunplay, or SWAT forward. Now, the rush of all these guns blazing encounters does come with side effects, most namely paranoia. When you're so amped up shuffling through empty hallways, knowing these enlightened AI can be around any corner ready to drop you, it tends to keep you a bit on the edge. Maybe you do an oopsie, maybe you do a little blue-on-blue oopsie, but if you ever shoot your own, just give them the old...
Friendly.
Testing out your body armor. It's good. Fully intact. Who knows? I don't know. Are you a perp? Am I? All I know is... Flying Bitches is back, and I've just gotten word that our show has already been canceled by the network. That's all right. There's 20 years of loyalty down the drain. Is that on the board? Seems to be the trend lately. Anyways, what's your name, fuckface? Watch this. Mr. Flick Harvey, that's just a picture of your dick, man. That's right, unmodded, folks. Can you believe it? Just like this gun. I've had enough. I'm fed up. We'll be right back with Flick Harvey's ransom demand. Now, although I love hanging with the mind magnets, at some point, a regular hit of Ron is just not gonna do it for you anymore. It's like coffee. Remember when 1 cup of coffee was enough? Now look at yourself. You're doing rails to coffee grounds off of the baristas as you wait on a coffee with 10 shots of espresso and 2 shots of the diabetes in it just so you can get half hard by noon. Me, I stay hard, motherfucker, and you best believe it. And that's because I flipped on mods 100 hours ago and I never looked back. A flood of Among Us men and British people.
It's almost like we haven't cleared the top 4.
An onslaught of AI that cha-cha slides through the biggest milsim loafers.
Hey, I just want to let you know.
Oh shit. And 249s that span entire maps. 9-bangers, pro-bangers. What the fuck? Increasing suspect counts to the max. Increasing team count to 13.
Looks like they're giving oral. God damn it.
I unleash them upon every public lobby I'm in. Call me Don Pablo because I'm giving everyone the fix.
Is it a mod? Is it a zombie mod or something?
It's a zombie mod. Probably not. I don't know, man. Is it?
No. It's just an all-natural, regular experience. suspicious or nothing. It's just, in the end, all I ever wanted was for everyone to see the world through my eyes. As far as maps go, Neon Tomb clears. The color schemes, the neons, the tombs, the tombs, the neons, the railings, the tombs. Bring back the hotel map, Void. Bring back the good farm map, Void. Bring back the mode selected map variations, Void. Give me an LMG, Void. Bring back the carpet so that I gotta Tard wrangle 16 motherfuckers onto that mat so I can get the mission started, Void. That's it. Welcome back one last time. Fleek off his ransom demands. Brought to you in Popeye Manscaped. Gotta keep it looking like my head down there. I want a helicopter and a cheeseburger and a... Oh, so it's like that then. Survey says I'm easy to find. Wrong answer.
JD Vance continues to be popular with the Republican Party. I think he easily wins the nomination. I don't see any Democratic opposition beating him. That's wild. I mean, you're not wrong though, and it's not due to JD Vance. It's not due to JD Vance's like unique level of charisma.
No, it's the Democrats
or
sucking
anything like that, because he does not have that, obviously. And everything to do with the fact that the Democratic Party is completely incompetent. Well, don't say I didn't ask. No, you ask. I never said you don't ask. You definitely do ask. Anyway, but instead we live in a world where JD Vance is the vice president. And he did a Face the Nation. And in that Face the Nation, he had one of those funny moments immediately that comes to mind is how JD Vance wants to support anyone and everyone. From JD Pondon to John Don Vance. Let's take a look.
No tie, bipartisan opposition, smallest margin since the job was created, you would break that tie. If the nominee can't unite your party, how's he going to lead 3 million people?
Well, look, I think Pete is a disruptor, and a lot of people don't like that disruption, but Margaret, that disruption is incredibly necessary. If you think about all of those bipartisan massive votes, we have to ask ourselves, what did they get us? They got us a country where we fought many wars over the last 40 years.
Oh, dude, this is so funny. I just paused it and it F'd for that second, and then it came back. Like, it F'd and came back right as I paused it. Is your PC GPU or CPU maxing out? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. How can I find that out? Your hair actually looks immaculate. No, it doesn't. It looks like shit. It looks like shit, but it's okay. This is my favorite part of the day, dude. I can't believe I'm turning into freaking Austin, dude. I'm actually... am I old? Am I getting old? I do actually enjoy, like...
I'm getting old.
Watching the sunrise on Tokyo. Like, it makes me kind of happy. I think it's sick. There was a point in time where, like, in my life, I would have never cared about that sort of thing at all. Task Manager can just give you a readout. Hey, where does
Yeah,
it
you're a
go?
very lucky man. I would love to see the sunrise in Tokyo.
Where is it, like, utilization? CPU's at 10, memory's at 12%, GPU's at 10%, GPU 0 is at 9%, GPU 1 is at 26%. It's fine. I'm not doing any. Like, this is, it's not any of those. Probably my network. My internet, I think, you know? Put it on your second monitor, see what happens when you F. I know, it just goes blank. It goes black screen. All right, getting back to this. John Don Vance. John Don Jedediah Vance. Let's
buy airplanes for billions and billions of dollars, terrible cost overruns, the delivery dates are always delayed. So we need a big change. Now, admittedly, there are people who don't like that big change, but it is necessary, and it's explicitly what Donald J. Trump ran on, and I think part of the reason why the American people elected him their 47th president.
So the main objective is changing all of that, that it's going to be Pete alone?
I'd say the main problem the main thing that we want Pete Hegseth to do is to fix the problems at the Department of Defense. And unfortunately, there are many. We've gotten into way too many wars that we don't have a plan for winning. We've gotten into way too many misadventures that we shouldn't have got into in the very first place. And our procurement process, Margaret, is incredibly broken. We're in an era. Well, of course, they're policy decisions, but they're also logistical and implementation decisions. If you look at where we are with the rise of artificial intelligence, with the rise of...
Yeah, whenever they say procurement, they're talking about AI, and they're talking about drones, and they're talking about how in Ukraine and Israel, they're just like testing out the latest and greatest of the technology. Like things that you would absolutely consider to be horrifying, right? Like things that you would think, oh my God, that would be the most thing if the American government used that. Please, let's not do that. That is what he is specifically talking about when he's like, oh yeah, our procurement strategies are bad. I've listened to too many generals and too many tech guys talk about this issue, quote unquote issue. They are like, why don't we have our own lavender targeting system? That's what they mean.
Drone technology and drone warfare. We have to really, top to bottom, change the way that we fund the procurement of weapons, the way that we arm our troops. This is a major period of disruption, and we think Pete Hegseth is the guy to lead the job. Now, there's another element to this, Margaret, too, which is we believe that military morale, at least until the election of President Trump, was historically low. You have the Army missing recruitment goals by tens of thousands of soldiers, and already recruitment is starting to pick up because Pete Hegseth is fundamentally a warfighter's leader at the Department of Defense. He is a guy who sees not through the perspective of the generals or the bureaucrats.
This stuff is so funny, like that the recruitment is low because like people just didn't want to join the Army because it's like too gay and too woke. Amazing.
He looks at things through the perspective of the men and women that we send off to fight our wars.
Both the Wall Street Journal and the National Review, conservative publications, as you know, have been critical of Tulsi Gabbard. The Review called her an atrocious nominee who deserves to be defeated. They compared her defense of Edward Snowden, the fugitive who stole U.S. secrets, to an attorney general who thinks the mob gets a bad rap. Her refusal to accept U.S. intelligence findings that assist his own people, they said, was like a nominee for OMB director not being able to count. Does any of this give you pause putting her in charge of the U.S. intelligence community? Yes or no?
No, look, these are publications that attacked Donald J. Trump obsessively, but those publications don't determine who the president is, the American people do. And Donald J. Trump is the person who determines who his cabinet is, not these publications that I think, frankly, have lost relevance. Here's Tulsi Gabbard's.
Decide.
Well, the Senate will provide advice and consent as is its constitutional obligation, but I feel confident that Tulsi Gabbard will ultimately get through. Two things that are important to know about Tulsi. First of all, she is a career military servant who's had a classification at the highest levels for nearly 2 decades. She has impeccable character, impeccable record of service, and she also is a person who I think is going to bring some trust back to the intelligence services. The bureaucrats at our intelligence services have gotten completely out of control. They've been part of the weaponization of our political system, the weaponization of our justice system. We need to have good intelligence services who keep us safe, but part of that is restoring trust in those services, and we think Tulsi's the right person to do it. That's why the president
trust those intelligence services.
She recognizes that the bureaucrats have gotten out of control, and we need somebody there who's going to rein them in and return those services to their core mission of identifying information that's going to keep us safe.
You campaign on lowering prices for consumers. We've seen all of
controversial opinions. Yeah, they even mentioned it. Tulsi Gabbard is my dark horse in this administration. I think she's so insane, and it literally makes no sense to have her in the position, in any position at all in this administration. but specifically that position, it just makes no sense to me, and therefore she's my favorite pick. Like, I think it's even crazier than Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. I'm not joking. Like, there's just, I think, well, first of all, a lot of Americans, a lot of people have said Tulsi Gabbard is worse than Pete Hegseth, especially like in terms of what her responsibilities are, and I kind of get it, which is why I think it's cool. It just doesn't make any sense why you would have someone like Tulsi Gabbard at any position. Okay, I'm telling you right now, it is one of the most sane choices to make. Because Pete Hegseth is like a regular racist, right? He's a Christian dominionist, he's a Christian nationalist, but there is, like, if you're wondering, there are a million guys like that, okay? Whether they have Jerusalem cross tattoos or not, his perspective is oftentimes reflective of the broader American consciousness and the grand design that America has on the region. Tulsi Gabbard's decipherable worldview as a member of a like random cult with a leader who presents himself as an Indian man that has created so many unique political positions for Tulsi Gabbard that make F and back, it's mini F. So many unique positions for Tulsi Gabbard that make Ro Khanna look coherent. Okay? It's fascinating. I really want to know. Like, I mean, they even mentioned it. They even mentioned it themselves, right? Like, they were like, Tulsi Gabbard is pro-Assad, right? People oftentimes will, let's just say, exaggerate about someone's perspective, right? But there's a reason why people didn't say Tim Walz is pro-Assad. Tim Walz was an anti-intervention in Syria guy, okay, when he was in the Senate, when he was in the House of Representatives. And I think it's a pretty solid approach to take for American intervention, especially if you're like a fucking Minnesota congressperson, right? But why does nobody say he's a Assadist? Because he's not an Assadist. Tulsi Gabbard is uniquely maybe pro-Assad, while also simultaneously, literally, like, taking good positions, like being pro-Edward Snowden, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It never made sense to me why she ran as, like, the anti-imperialist candidate as a soldier, and then the American government was like, hey, can you go do PSYOPs in Africa for the CIA? Like, just remember, Tulsi Gabbard was like, I'm an anti-interventionist. I hate interventions. Also, if there's a Muslim intervention, I think we should intervene harder. Okay? Like, that was her position. And then she turned around. Yeah, exactly, because he didn't go to visit Assad and no, that's what I'm saying. Like, when people say, oh, this person is an Assadist or whatever, like, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes they're just doing the classic, like, oh, you're anti-American. Oh, you're anti-American intervention, which means you love the other guys, right? Tulsi Gabbard is one of the people that even I look at and go, maybe she does love the other guys. Okay? There is a degree of involvement that doesn't make sense from my perspective, where I think she was, I'll put it this way, I think she's the OG Jackson Hinkle. Do with that information what you will. I think she's the OG Jackson. She was the Jackson Hinkle prototype. And Jackson Hinkle is like the newer version that the government rolled out, if that makes sense. Because it's like, it's just strange that you go and you visit Assad and his intelligence officers, and then you come back and you have this like insane framework that you're operating off of, where you're like, I'm the anti-intervention candidate, but then while you're the anti-intervention candidate, you're also consistently advocating for, one, more intervention as long as it's against Muslims, okay? And two, the government's like, yeah, we're now going to deploy you to do PSYOPs in Africa. That's weird. Why? It's weird because why did the American intelligence agencies not treat, wait, what the fuck? Is there like a, what is happening? Is there like a, on the camera? On the camera? Is it, what's happening? Do you see that? Is that a hair? What is going on? I'm gonna melt down. The light of Allah? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Like, here, listen to me. Listen. If she is a massive security threat, and she's doing a lot of stuff that, like, you know, would make you she's a massive security threat, right? Why the fuck did the American military deploy to Africa to do... Wait, that only got worse. No. Oh, no. I think it's a scratch on the lens? Oh, no. Oh, no. How did that happen? Oh, shit. Surely a filter? No, you're seeing the sun reflection right here. Do you notice? That's because there's a little... I can see it. I can see a scratch on the lens. Or a crack. I think we might have finally cooked it. March put a UV filter yesterday. I don't think this is I don't think there's a UV filter. No, this is just the... No, he took it off. Is it the lens or the lens filter? I don't know. But I think it's because the background is so blown out. That's why you can see it. But it's fine. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll definitely get like you don't see when my hand is closer to the lens. It's because it's also... You're seeing it because the light is reflecting. Like, the light is, like, beaming right into it because it's blown out. It's fine. You can see it when it was dark out? Oh, really? We'll fix it. No, it's not the one that Will had at the restaurant. All right, let's get back to the Tulsi Gabbard situation. All right, let's get back to JD Vance.
We have done a lot, and there have been a number of executive orders that have caused already jobs to start coming back into our country, which is a core part of lowering prices. More capital investment, more job creation.
What is this? You don't understand how right you are about Tulsi Hinkle? Wait, Jonah Hill sounds like an insecure baby, but Sarah Brady used to date Jesse Hinkle and hangs out with Tulsi Gabbard? Oh my god. Oh my god, I did not know this. Okay, dude, why do you straight up ignore ally messages on repeat? Have I offended you? Did you know that Turkish has similarities to Korean, Japanese, and Mongolian? Dog, you literally are. I'm not kidding. We were just... Remember earlier today when I was talking about how, like, people will just, like, do you just not like me, bro? Do you remember how earlier in the day I said one of the most annoying things that people do? One of the most annoying things that people do is just, like, they'll come in and they'll have, like, something that they're like, you must hear me out. This is of the utmost importance. The situation is dire. You must hear me out. Please stop doing that. Please. It's just like, you know.
Economy is one of the things.
I'm losing it a little bit for white right now. I don't know why is this so difficult this morning? I don't know what's happening. Asma goes live reacting to the same thing since when he become a right-wing content creator. I don't know, when he got 70,000 people watching him. Watch a JD Vance interview. This is big. This is the golden age for Trump.
Going to come down, but it's going to take a little bit of time, right? The president has been president for all of 5 days. I think that in those 5 days, he's accomplished more than Joe Biden did in 4 years. It's been an incredible breakneck pace of activity. We're going to work with Congress. We're, of course, going to have more executive orders, and we're going to try... The way that you lower prices is that you encourage more capital investment into our country, and you ask specifically, what executive order is going to help lower prices? All of the stuff that we've done on energy, to explore more energy reserves, to develop more energy resources in the United States of America. One of the main drivers of increased prices under the Biden administration is that we had a massive increase in energy prices. Donald Trump has already taken multiple executive actions that are going to lower energy prices, and I do believe that means consumers are going to see lower prices at the pump and at the grocery store, but it's going to take a little bit of time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and while we've done a whole lot, we can't undo all of the damage of Joe Biden's presidency in 4 days.
Well, there are a lot of things that contributed to higher energy prices, and there was record oil and gas production.
Yes, Joe Biden did many terrible things to lead to an increase in prices. I agree, Margaret.
No, but all the things you experience at the grocery store are what people touch and feel. That's what We're talking about bacon on the campaign trail.
Of course. Of course.
Those things, when do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives?
Well, Margaret, how does bacon get to the grocery store? It comes on trucks that are fueled by diesel fuel. If the diesel's way too expensive, the bacon's going to become more expensive. How do we grow the bacon? Our farmers need energy to produce it. So if we lower energy prices, we are going to see lower prices for consumers, and that is what we're trying to fight for.
Well, the flurry of executive orders, most of them weren't about the economy. Many of them
were, though, Margaret. We had, I think we've taken
promise
over.
of tariffs by February 1st.
We've taken over 200 executive actions, some executive orders.
I just
other
like this
executive
man
actions.
so much.
Again, this is in less than a week, and a lot of them were focused on the economy, bringing investment into our country and lowering energy prices. We've also focused on safety, restoring public safety, ending weaponization of the Department of Justice. We've done a lot. And I think the president is to be commended for actually coming in and doing something with this incredible mandate the American people gave him. He's not sitting in the Oval Office doing nothing. He's doing the American people's business, and I think they're going to see a lot of good effects from it.
Well, a lot of these announcements have yet to take effect.
Sure.
The president did say he wants to do something with an executive order in relation to federal emergency response. He said he may reform or eliminate FEMA. Instead of sending emergency responders, he may start to send a percentage of money to states to take care of themselves. But you know, FEMA has specialized expertise that some of the states just don't have in their arsenal. And
I wish that they...
Margaret.
Who are lower income states, the Mississippis, the...
I have to talk down to you, Margaret. How am I going to talk down to you if I don't use your name a lot and interrupt you?
He's not saying we're going to leave anybody behind. He's saying that in the way that we administer these resources, some of which is coming from the federal level.
Good morning. Would you like to go to breakfast? Austin, you know I just texted the group chat, and you know my answer is, as always, no. Okay? The answer is no. J.D. Vance continues to be popular with the Republican Party. I think he easily wins the nomination. I don't see any Democratic opposition beating him. That's wild. I mean, and you're not wrong, though. And it's not due to J.D. Vance. It's not due to J.D. Vance's, like, unique level of charisma or anything like that, because he does not have that, obviously. And everything to do with the fact that the Democratic Party is completely... Well, don't say it in there. No, you ask. I never say don't ask. You definitely do ask. Why do right commentators often get more views than leftist commentators? I think there's just more interest for it. Right-wing commentary oftentimes is responding to a lot of people's preconceived notions, preconceived biases, and it's never about, like, taking a deep breath, closing your eyes, imagining a better future. It's easier to consume. I think people take for granted how much I try to make this content palatable. Like, I think left-wing commentary is at its heart. Left-wing commentary, I think at its heart, is like kind of boring,
yeah,
and luxury, and annoying. You know, right-wing commentary is just like looking at things that most people take for granted and saying he's correct, and that anyone who tells you that it's incorrect is wrong and gay. There's no need for nuance. There's no need for contextualization. There's nothing. You could just like look at the situation and say, based. Egg prices are gonna go down. That's based. Right? It's common sense. It's common sense. Once we eliminate the transgenders, then the egg prices are gonna go down. There's no clue on there. There's no logic there. But it makes people feel comfortable and good. Left-wing commentary, on the other hand, is like, everything is falling apart, the world is ending, American capitalism has destroyed the planet, and we are only now starting to recognize the most devastating aspects of unlimited, unrestricted, permanent profit-seeking by corporations. And also, on its face, aside from the depressing nature of having a left perspective on issues, I think it's just like kind of boring to do a college lecture all the time. You know, I try to do my very best to make it as as appealing as possible. I try to make it as palatable as possible, but there is a lot of I think.
Look, isn't that basically the same mob as New World?
Make change happen in the opposite direction that society does not exist under. That's it. People fear change. People don't have the capacity to dream, change, like it. So it's much easier to just be like, much easier to just sit back and say, everything is wrong because of the people that you don't like. They've ruined your life. Everything is wrong because of transgenders. Everything is wrong because of undocumented migrants.
Yeah, it's really
and
easy.
Our based God, Trump, is going to kick them out, and everything's going to get better.
Being a hater is easy.
On the state level,
Yeah.
we've got to get the bureaucrats out of the way and get the aid to the people who need it most.
But these
Let's
are the
be
first
honest,
responders.
you talk about the expertise from FEMA. FEMA in North Carolina, in California, in Florida with some of the hurricanes has often been a disaster. And it's not because we don't have good people at FEMA, it's because bureaucratic red tape and garbage prevents the rapid deployment of resources to
But
the
the
people who need
states
it
are
most.
now going to have to do this themselves?
The president is trying to encourage us to reform the way that we deliver emergency response in a way that gets resources
So
to the
don't
people
take him
who need it.
literally, is what you're saying.
We should take the president at his word that FEMA needs desperate reform because it does. When I was in Carolina as VP of whole this morning, people would talk about how FEMA would get resources, food, medicine, water to a warehouse, but then would have no plan to get it from the warehouse to the people in the mountains who are literally starving and thirsting to death. We can do so much better, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we will.
But they work with the state.
We didn't do better. We already had Trump's leadership. He didn't do better. He's not going to do better this time. We already saw that he did nothing.
Don't work well enough with state and local officials to get resources to the people who need it. We should expect this.
Yeah, you know who's going to do that better? Whatever comes next that they're advocating for, which I suspect will be, I don't know, someone close to Trump taking over this process and turning it into a for-profit structure with fat government contracts that will yield tremendous returns on investment that will absolutely make the for-profit disaster relief industry, that will create the for-profit disaster relief industry, will collapse any kind of relief efforts. FEMA creates a level of centralization that is an absolute necessity. Taking away all of the funds, all the existing funds, and turning them into subsidies for private enterprise is incredibly alarming. And you know that bureaucracy only happens at the federal level, not at the state level. And it's not even bureaucracy. Like, bureaucracy is the thing that these guys point to say is like inefficient across the board, right? That's what's annoying about it. Like they're like, oh, FEMA's too inefficient, and it's like disaster relief and recovery is always a arduous process. There's gonna be issues no matter what. Like, making that process more efficient is great. We're not interested in that. Also, corporations and bureaucracy as well. You guys are interested in privatizing FEMA and taking the billions of dollars of taxpayer funds that go directly to FEMA and giving it to a friendly, wealthy person that will turn FEMA into a...
What? You jacked me with one health left. Oh my god.
I mean, how can any conservative...
You jacked me.
Destroying the U.S. Postal Service being the last line of delivery for many rural communities that overwhelmingly vote for Donald Trump would no longer get their deliveries. Like, would no longer get their medication if the U.S. Postal Service was also privatized. People don't care. Partially because they're stupid, and partially because they are...
You jacked me.
Seeking out short-term profit. It's the same concept. Like, people don't understand that the U.S. Postal Service is not supposed to be a for-profit institution. It's supposed to be a service. It's supposed to be a service that the government offers by need. Okay? And that's precisely the reason why they are the last line of delivery for many communities that UPS doesn't go to, many communities that FedEx doesn't go to. The reason why they don't go there is because it's expensive. And you can't yield profits from a lot of faraway places. Yeah, wouldn't the USPS fall under essential services? I mean, what do you think FEMA is? Like, FEMA also provides an incredibly important service. Especially important because of climate change, ironically enough.
Of President Trump's leadership, the American people should expect more of their government. When there's a terrible disaster, they should expect food, medicine, and water to get to the people who need it. When there's a terrible fire in California, the fire hydrants ought to actually turn on. I am sick of the American people having such low expectations for their government. They should demand more of us because this is the greatest country in the world, and that's what Donald Trump's leadership promises to bring back.
So still count on the federal government, but watch that space. Let me ask you about another area that you campaigned on quite a lot, and there was a flurry of activity on, and that has to do with immigration. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops this week condemned some of the executive orders signed by President Trump, specifically those allowing immigration and customs enforcement to enter churches and to enter schools. Do you personally support the idea of conducting a raid or enforcement action in a church service, school?
Well, let me address this. Of course, if you have a person who is convicted of a violent crime, whether they're an illegal immigrant or a non-illegal immigrant, you have to go and get that person to protect the public safety. That's not unique to immigration. But let me just address this particular issue, Margaret, because as a practicing Catholic, I was actually heartbroken by that statement. And I think that the U.S. Conference of Catholic...
Yeah, let me guess. He's heartbroken because, like, undocumented migrants are not children of God and therefore have no place inside of churches to begin with. So if they're actually desecrating churches with their presence, then they must be violently removed. And that is the godly way to approach the situation. As a Catholic adult convert, I think the godly thing to do is not love thy neighbor and practice empathy and understand that they too are children of God, but instead to treat them as hostile enemies and kill them. Do not commit the sin of empathy. It is a virtue to be evil. It is a virtue to do harm to others, no matter how marginalized, no matter how poor, no matter how tired, and no matter how vulnerable they are. Okay? Yeah, love thy neighbor. How about kill thy neighbor if he's Mexican? That's what God taught me. Thanks, JD.
Needs to actually look in the mirror and recognize that when they receive over $100 million to help resettle illegal immigrants, are they worried about humanitarian concerns, or are they actually worried about their bottom line? We are going to enforce immigration law. We're going to protect the American people.
Yeah.
Donald Trump promised to do that, and I believe the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, if they're worried about the humanitarian costs of immigration enforcement, let them talk about the children who have been sex trafficked because of white.
Do not commit the sin of empathy. What did this guy say? Christians, if Christians are right. He said, do not commit the sin of empathy. I believe South Florida would get hit by a major hurricane in the next 5 years and would destroy minus Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach. It has been 20 years since the last major storm, and climate change and mismanagement have caused massive overflow in the Everglades, meaning flooding will come to both the east and the west. Yeah, Catholicism dictates. My understanding of Catholicism leads me to recognize the reality that refugee resettlement, you know, working with some of the most vulnerable people is not what the church is supposed to do. What the church is supposed to do instead is work with rich people, okay? As a Catholic, I maintain the position that the prosperity gospel is the appropriate modus operandi of any sort of religious structure. It's great. It's good stuff. Thank you, JD. Yeah, do not welcome the stranger into your land. Bible shit. Recently, Emhud and Ryan's mom. Oh, Andrew episode 1. I was like, what do you mean? I realized that you changed your name. Told me that adult Catholic converts and trap people are fucking morons because she has 11 kids and did live a trap after 11 said it sucks. He also said we need to deport white Karens because they're miserable bitches. True. My Catholic in-law said no more people. We don't want any more people about immigrants. That's crazy.
You
Let
personally
them talk
support them
about
going into
people like
schools
Lincoln
and
Riley
churches.
who were brutally murdered. I support us doing law enforcement against violent criminals.
What the sin of empathy tweet popped off because everybody dunked on it, and now I don't know what the actual post looks like. Oh, here, the actual post got deleted. Let's see. Let's see what the real post is. Do not commit the sin of empathy. This snake is God's enemy and yours too. She hates God and his people. You need to properly hate in response. She is not merely deceived, but is a deceiver. Your eye shall not pity. Do not commit the sin of empathy. Do not commit the sin of empathy.
What?
Is something that a villain would say in an anime. Okay. What do you mean? Do not commit the sin of empathy. Why is this guy posting like a video game villain, dude? Do these guys not realize that like they just come across as unironically satanic?
Like, yep.
Meanwhile, the Church of Satan is doing the opposite, actually practicing, more moral religious values. Anyway, hold on. I'm telling Marcia to look at my stream now. I'm going to send him a photo. Also, he means sympathy, not empathy.
Whether they're illegal immigrants or anybody else, in a way that keeps us safe. Let me ask this question, Margaret. Let's separate the immigration issue. If you had a violent murderer...
But when a child dies of leukemia, could there be a purpose to it? Did God command the ethnic cleansing of the land of Israel?
I'm not saying the scribe made something up. I'm saying the scribe has a command.
So where did they get that command from?
From God.
I had Jesus appear to me 3 years ago.
I don't know what's happening now. I have to suspect it's some kind of psychological phenomenon. Hi, my name's Alex O'Connor. I'm an atheist and host of the Within Reason podcast. And today I'm surrounded by 25 Christians who, God willing, might be able to change my mind. My first claim is that suffering makes God's existence unlikely. Good work. Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you.
Why don't you just begin? Why is suffering or evil make God's existence unlikely?
I think when confronted with two hypotheses, so atheism, naturalism, or theism, we should ask what we expect would occur under either hypothesis. And then we look at the world and we see what does actually occur. And what do we find? We find, I think most relevant here, a system of natural selection, the mechanism by which God apparently chose to bring animals and ultimately human beings into existence. A system which is defined by suffering. Survival of the fittest is the same thing as the death and suffering and destruction of the unfit. I'm told the very mechanism that God chose to bring about the human species as the ultimate end of his creation was one that is imbued with suffering, such that 99.9% of all the species, let alone animals, that have ever existed on planet Earth have been brutally wiped from existence into extinction. And I think that that's less likely on theism. If you assume atheism or materialism, not only do you explain this, you also come to expect it.
What is your, I guess, epistemology? How do you know that this is the case, that it's less likely, and that, you know, an atheist worldview, a naturalistic worldview would look like the way it is today?
Of course we don't know, but that's why I use the phraseology of unlikely. I think that if you were to tell somebody who was sort of in some Rawlsian state of nature, hadn't seen the world, and you said that the world has been created by an omnibenevolent, all-powerful God, what kind of world would that person be imagining? And if you dropped them into the world, if you were given the opportunity to become a wild animal, like in 2 seconds, I was just going to turn you into a random wild animal somewhere on planet Earth.
I like being a guy.
I think you'd probably kill yourself before I had the opportunity, because you know that the life of these animals is almost defined in terms of their suffering.
I guess I just don't really see how you can justify that claim per se. What I would say is that if we actually take into account the holistic view of the scriptures, which I do think that you have to do, we see that it's actually much more coherent once you acknowledge that evil itself doesn't have ontology. Evil's not a thing. You don't look under a rock and say, there's the evil, right?
And so I'm not really talking about evil here, because that's of course a moral term. I'm talking about suffering.
Can you distinguish suffering and evil?
So evil is a moral term. Evil means that something is bad, it's immoral. You need to have a moral ontology for that. Suffering is just any experience that's not wanted when experienced, right? And so even if you don't have a moral objectivism, you can still say that suffering exists. So here's a question. A deer gets its leg caught under the branch of a tree that's fallen over in the wild, and it starves to death in confused agony. Why does God oversee this? And why does God set the natural world up such that benefit doesn't occur?
Well, because the ultimate view here is that...
Okay, pause.
Nice to meet you. Good
Good work.
Allison, man.
How's it going?
My
Nice to
name's
meet you
Tim. Okay, so my first question to start out with is what exactly about suffering makes this unlikely on the condition that God exists?
I think that if God is all loving, then he probably wouldn't want his creatures to suffer. And so I think that the fact that they do suffer makes his existence less likely.
Okay, perfect. And is there some specific aspect of suffering that you're particularly honing in on, horrendous, or
in particular, non-human animal suffering? Because I think that the Christianity has a celebrated tradition of theodicies trying to explain why suffering exists.
Yeah.
Human free will, the development of the soul, higher order goods, all of this kind of stuff. None of which apply to the suffering of non-human animals.
Have you heard of the axiological expectation mismatch problem?
I have not.
Okay, so philosophers of religion have started to understand that the thing that actually generates a problem between God and suffering is actually the value system you attach to the very attribute of perfect lovingness. Because the problem of evil is an internal critique, you have to look at a very specific version of theism and how it defines perfect lovingness. I want to present to you a version where my version of perfect lovingness does not actually constitute a problem and a misalignment, that mismatch between the suffering of animals, let's just say the profusion of suffering of animals and the existence of God.
So let's hear it. What kind of God are we imagining that would allow and oversee and do nothing to prevent billions of years of untold animal suffering?
Right, so you're talking about non-prevention.
Or setting up the system that is natural selection, such that that it relies upon things like predation and disease.
Well, the first part is I don't agree with the whole setting up the system part. So I'm not one of those theists that believes that God does this select and pick idea of creating worlds. I don't think that God actually creates worlds. I think that God lets worlds develop according in a certain way, but because God can oversee an overarching narrative, he knows exactly how he can redeem anything. The first time, sorry, go ahead.
Could God have made it such that animals were all herbivores instead of carnivores and omnivores?
Yes, he could totally do that.
Okay, so had he done that, here's an instant way to reduce by orders of magnitude the amount of suffering that exists.
Right, but hold on. That's particularly assuming a value theory already that I haven't told you I'm adopting that has a problem with the evil. So I have to give you my value theory first for you to show that misalignment.
Okay, let's hear it.
Perfect. Okay, so my value theory says that it's not the most important thing about a sentient creature is not what merely happens to them. It's about the total timeline of their life and how and where their life permanently ends. Meaning, if you were to judge an author of a narrative, and the first few chapters, let's say, there's a lot of bad things happening, but the end ends with this crescendo where there's victoriousness, there's redemption, there's beauty, and everyone in the story actually endorses their entire existence that they live. They can look at their they can look at the total timeline, and they actually each subjectively come to the conclusion, I'm glad I was made, and I totally see what my suffering was for. That's the particular I'm using with. So we have to judge, like John Hicks says, we have to judge the very nature of God's lovingness by what he does in the end, not these few time slices that we observe right now. For you to show that there's a problem, you have to show to me that the suffering of animals cannot be transformed, are intrinsically cut off from being transformed into a life that they will endorse. There's a couple of theses on the table.
Okay.
But sure, go ahead.
So are you talking about the end of their life is in their end of life on Earth, or are you talking about the afterlife?
I'm antemortem, postmortem.
Okay, because if you're just talking about life on Earth, then I would say that if you had an author writing a book and a character, if we were trying to figure out the relationship between that author and the person in the book, and that person in the book shows up for 5 seconds in the first chapter and is a child who almost immediately dies of cancer in an incredibly painful way, and there's no development, there's no sort of bringing back to life and suddenly everyone's grateful for it. It is just this miserable, tragic experience. And I asked, well, what did the author not want to do for the story of the book, but want to do for that character?
Yes.
I think it would be pretty damning. And also, when it comes to animals, we're talking about animals who are predated on from the moment that they begin existence. They sort of have disease, zebras, when they're killed by lions, are often too big to be killed instantly, so they die over minutes with their windpipes caught in the jaws of a lion. How can this be developing a zebra, which, by the way, probably doesn't even have the same kind of first-person conscious experience that humans do in order to sort of rationalize and abstract and learn from their sort of past and morally develop in that way? They just suffer. And what kind of God could oversee this?
Okay, so there's a lot of assumptions on the table again. Again, you're assuming a particular value system that I'm not laying
I'll tell you what
out.
I'm assuming here. What I'm assuming here is that a good God would not allow unnecessary suffering to obtain.
Okay, gotcha. So we can
Do
talk.
you agree with that?
We can talk about unnecessary suffering. We're talking about the justifying norms for suffering. You're saying it has to be in terms of necessity, which is an evil is only authorizable by God if it's in connection to a greater good or prevention of a greater evil. Correct?
If there's some kind of justification for allowing that.
Yeah, but you're saying it's a necessary connection. Why you say? What's the term necessity?
So perhaps I should say unjustified instead of unnecessary.
Okay, so we both agree. I do not believe that God can authorize
Okay,
justified
tell me how.
unjustified suffering.
Tell me how that example that I gave you, the deer with its leg starving, is justified.
Because it's intrinsically redeemable, and the norms I'm working with is not this necessity condition that you're working with. Mine is about redeemable suffering, redeemability, what we call defeasibility. If that suffering can be defeated within the creature's life, and I'll define what I mean by defeat, which is that they can retroactively look back at what they went through and integrate it into their life history, where they look at their life.
I have to interrupt because the example I gave you is the one where the deer dies.
Yes, the deer dies. But here's the thing. Wow, you're probably talking about this post-mortem example. I'm going to put one thesis on the table. There's two philosophers that defend exactly what this goes through. One defends that animals will be given a martyrdom status. Well, God will be able to present himself in a way to animals in the afterlife, such that in the same way you could give praise to a dog, and the dog emotionally recognizes that he's loved and that his life is worth living, right? To these animals that suffered like that, there's one view on the table, which is that God will give them a praiseworthy status where they will be able to actually see that.
Can we talk about that claim? Because these animals are suffering for what? I mean, God might cause them to suffer a bunch. God might cause them to suffer a bunch and then essentially redeem them in the afterlife. But what for? Like, why do this? If I were to punch you in the face and then give you $20,000 afterwards, you might be grateful for the $20,000. But why couldn't I just give you the $20,000?
Well, see, so that's assuming. So I saw your debate with Trent.
You've been voted out.
All right.
Excellent. Return to your seat.
Good stuff.
So let's say,
would you say that theism or atheism better account for the idea that suffering exists and purpose for it?
Depends exactly what you mean, because of course you might say that the world itself is more respected on theism, and since suffering means the existence of the world, then theism that granted the existence of a material world, let's say, I think atheism.
Okay, why does suffering exist at all? Like in an atheistic worldview, what is the cause of suffering?
Oh, well, because however life began, it developed through a series of natural selection, which requires animals to develop senses that they wish to avoid in order to be more likely to survive. And that's why pain receptors evolved. In a world where not all of these pains are actually going to kill us, we're left with dying.
Would you agree that consciousness is necessary for suffering?
I would say probably yes.
Does atheism account for consciousness?
Yes, that's what I was talking about a moment ago. Perhaps not. Maybe theism accounts better for consciousness than atheism does.
So if there is no consciousness, there is no suffering. Is that right?
That's probably true.
So if atheism cannot account for consciousness, then it cannot account for suffering. Would you agree with that?
So I think what we're doing here is we're sort of slightly shifting the goalposts. If you don't want to grant the existence of the material world, we're not talking about human life, then you need to say what consciousness is. What I'm going to say is this. Consciousness may seem to imply the existence of a conscious creator of the universe. We're here talking about, I suppose we're talking about Christianity. The claim was about God. But the God that you believe in, if we believe there is a creator deity who sort of brings about the universe of conscious creatures. Have you ever heard of the evil God hypothesis that Stephen Law popularized?
Tell me.
So the idea is that, like, imagine that there's a God who brings about the world and creates the world, but does it maliciously because he wants human beings to suffer. He brings about the world in order so that human beings will suffer. Right? That seems like a plausible hypothesis. And even if you think that consciousness points towards God, the kind of God that a lot of Christians think is a sort of necessary quality of God, which is to be all-loving, might not have to apply here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If Christianity were true, is it plausible that suffering is necessary for God's purpose?
Well, if Christianity is true, then I think it must be necessary, because there'd be no other explanation.
Okay, so we're not talking about whether or not Christianity is true.
But if you're asking me if it's plausible that Christianity is true, and therefore suffering is necessary, I would say probably not. Because I don't think suffering should be necessary, or could be necessary.
In an atheistic worldview, I would agree with you, it makes no sense at all. But, okay, I would ask this question.
So can I ask you why then, if God exists and wants to come to know everybody, and wants to love everybody, and does so for the sake of human beings, why he chose to imbue the world with so much suffering that is at least seemingly completely inexplicable?
Are you a father?
No.
I'm a father. I want my son to become just like I am, better than I am. I want him to become the best that he can be. Is it possible for him to reach his potential without suffering in his life?
Perhaps not, but there's
Okay,
two.
so suffering is necessary.
There are a few things I want to say.
Okay.
Firstly, that kind of moral development doesn't apply to non-human animals, as we've already said, right? That does not account for the brutal death of animals in the wild. Also, if I don't want to talk about your son because it's tragic to think about, but somebody else's son has suffered and died immediately as a result of that suffering, they don't get to develop in the same way.
I would agree that on a micro level, it's very hard to justify, and we can ask the question, why doesn't God intervene on all
So
of
look,
these
you might be able to
sufferings?
justify an amount of suffering, right? But the fact that there's so much gratuitous suffering in the world is what I think makes God's existence unlikely. There are some instances where maybe a certain amount of suffering brings about a certain amount of good in a situation. That, by the way, would count as a justification. But when people dies of leukemia, and they're dead.
Could there be a purpose to it? What if the death of the child brings their parents to God?
Then perhaps then the parents should be grateful that their child got leukemia because it's doing the will of the Lord.
Not necessarily.
That seems
All right, pause. Please return to your
Thanks,
seat.
you said.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome. I would love to pull back a little bit and ask you, what are your values kind of rooted in, grounded in? Where would we start?
So I'm an ethical emotionist, which is a form of ethical
Going backward, I remember reading at the end of Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, that we can't trust our senses because evolution doesn't really care about making truth. Do you agree with that?
I don't think Dawkins actually thinks that argument, but it's a good argument. C.S. Lewis, Alvin Plantinga, the argument from reason. Well, I mean, I'm main agnostic on what reason is, but I think it's
right.
So crucially, I'm not saying that something is morally wrong. Outside of the sense that I as an emotionist will just express an emotion that I don't like it. I'm not claiming that it's immoral, that it's objectively bad. What I'm claiming is that suffering is unexpected monotheism. It's an internal critique, right? Lincoln said of slavery, if this is not wrong, then nothing is wrong. You don't have to believe that something's wrong, but if there is such a thing as objective morality, I don't think that it would consist in a God who oversees the amount of suffering that we have on planet Earth.
Timothy Keller does this story about no-seams. Have you heard of the no-seam story? Yeah, so he says if you have a tent and you look in there and you say, hey, I think I have some dogs in the tent. Maybe, like, for example, I have a golden doodle. He's a killer. That was just a joke, but we can move on. And if I said, hey, I have a golden doodle inside the tent, you would expect to see one. But if I said, hey, there's no seams.
What?
He says, there's no seams in the tent. You might look in there and go, I don't see any no seams. But of course you don't see no seams because nobody can see them.
The bullet went through him. I shot him dead in the chest. I don't know why he didn't hit him.
Doesn't mean that there can't be a reason. Now, it's kind of cold comfort. That doesn't get us 100% of the way there, but it gets us part of the way there.
That's true. So the existence of evil is not logically, or suffering, it's not logically incompatible with God's existence. But it's a bit like if somebody came up to me right now and stole my friend's wallet in front of me and shot him dead and ran away, and I was grieving, and somebody said to me, well, hey man, you don't know, that person might have worked for the CIA, and your friend might have secretly been harboring the nuclear codes, and killing him might have been good for the country, and he stole the wallet because that's where the codes were. And I would say, well, what evidence do you have for that? And you say, well, look, just because I don't have evidence for it doesn't mean that there might not be some evidence that I don't know about. I would say, until I see why I should think that's the case, I'm not going to believe it, and I'm certainly not going to be less upset in my grieving over my friend because of the possibility that there could be an explanation for it. There's so much suffering imbued in the human experience that if somebody says, well, look, there could be an explanation, it's like, okay, fine, but let me know when you know what it is.
Great. I think that
All right, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your
Sorry, one more
seats.
time. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Good fun. Hey, nice to meet you. How are you?
Good. Repeat your claim one more time.
That suffering is unexpected if a good God exists.
Unexpected. So when you say unexpected, like you're caught off guard by it, or you're expecting like all good things to happen?
That if I assume that there is a good God supervising, invigilating the universe, that I would not expect to see so much suffering.
Right.
So much gratuitous, seemingly unnecessary suffering.
Right. And you know, the most beautiful thing is that our God is as you said himself.
I would say that there can be sort of poetic about suffering. It has to be the story of suffering, especially if they die as a direct result. Might think that. Also, I think that if I knew some child who died of leukemia and suffered for it, and I went to them and said, but hey, there's some beauty in suffering, isn't there? I think we should take that.
Right. Well, I would say like the same thing for a woman giving birth, right? It's suffering, like it sucks, it hurts.
But imagine you could have the giving birth without the pain of giving birth.
Right.
Would you prefer that?
Of course, yeah.
So then if God can bring about the good stuff without the bad stuff, then there's no reason to bring about the bad stuff. So what we have to show is why the bad stuff is necessary to bring about the good stuff. Otherwise it's not.
Right. Well, could you say that the result of why we suffer is because of fallen created?
I would say not, but I believe it.
Right, true.
But I also don't think that explains non-human animal suffering. The big thing that I want to keep pressing is that theodicies that we talk about, free will, old man, all this stuff, I don't think applies to that deer with its leg pulled down the branch, dying, confused, agony. What's this for?
So what is it about animals that seems so more important than humans?
It's not that they're more important, it's that, as you say, like it seems plausible at least that a human can suffer and then be sort of better off for it, or that they can enjoy poetry, the poetry of suffering. Animals can't.
Right.
Animals can't enjoy the poetry of suffering.
Well, I wouldn't know. I never talked to an animal and said like, hey.
I have. They just haven't talked back.
Right.
Is the problem. But I just don't see why we would expect that God would oversee this system of natural selection.
Right.
Billions of animals suffering and dying, predation, disease, eating each other alive, leaving each other to bleed out on the floor, and this is being supervised by an all.
Well, do you think that's God's intention from the very beginning of creation of all things?
I think that God oversees the mechanism. God could have made, for example, the one example I've already given, is that God could have made animals herbivores, which just eliminates the problem of predation.
I mean, there are some animals.
There are, but he could have made more of them. He could have made all animals herbivores, thereby eliminating the suffering of predation.
So is the issue of them eating each other?
That's one issue. That's one way that God could have sort of, I think, quite trivially reduced the amount of suffering. David Attenborough once said in his documentaries, people complain about the silence in the documentaries, just see what we leave on the cutting room floor. The animal world is just filled with unimaginable suffering.
Right.
Just predation is
But there's also cute things about, like, otters holding hands and
That's true.
swim away.
But could you have that without suffering? That's the question. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Phew, that conversation was so interesting. It reminded me of that unfortunate time that Billy ran his motorcycle to an open pothole.
Yeah, didn't he dislocate both his arms and break his leg and even lose a tooth?
Yeah, I'm so glad he recovered from that. He went through such a treacherous process trying to sue, and he barely even got compensated.
It must have taken him like 3 to 4 months to get a lawyer. It was horrible.
Yeah, the sad part was his legal fees were comparable to his compensation.
I can't switch weapons.
There's a firm out there that does online appointments and all the paperwork for you, and at no cost unless you win your case.
You mean Morgan & Morgan?
America's largest injury law firm?
Morgan & Morgan specializes in a wide range of different personal injury cases. When you hire them, you don't just get a lawyer. You get dedicated employees that do all the things to get work for you.
That's right, Jules. They've recovered over $20 billion for their clients. Just in the past couple months, they saw verdicts of over $12 million in Florida.
26 million in Philly and 6.8 million in New York. That's up to 40 times the highest insurance law.
And guess what? They don't charge for any sign-up fees or any other upfront costs. It's all free unless you win your case. Submitting a claim has never been easier.
Whoa.
Everyone wants to sue each
If you're
other.
a victim of personal injury or any other serious accidents like a gun failure, your case can be you can visit www.40people.com/Julie to start your free claim today. Or you can click the link in the description below. Thanks to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring this portion of this episode. So you back to the video.
My next claim is that God commands genocide.
There is a myriad of problematic people.
Oh no, 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 nope.
Israel are instructed through Prophet Samuel, King Saul. In fact, when Israel does as they're instructed, they destroy a sect. So Prophet Samuel comes in and says, what do you know? He says, well, we kept the best of the animals. And it says twice that God regrets that he made why does he
that we had this conversation just in friendship about how we recognize one another. I have one part that he's talking about scripture, right? But this is what he's saying in human history that we can have the reciprocal partners, right? And for my friend who had this right? That was the question I asked him, right? Like, this is a genocide that was against and for many others who love the scripture, I mean, I think that God is ultimately always pulling us toward greater levels. When we look into the story of history, like particularly historic genocide, that they are trying to make sense of in their religious worldview. So they're super open-minded. Do you think that I'm not super interested in that conversation, but I would say
You've been voted out. You touched it first, yes.
I need to get down the adrenaline just a little bit after that, Ryan. Yeah, I think what you bring is interesting. Like, I think, you know, if we were to look at the literal definition of Bible, I think we can see that God commanded a person to commit genocide. So I think we're aligned there.
I mean, the definition of genocide.
Yes. Yeah. So with that being said, though, I think when we look at Christian theology and the whole, and Adam and Eve decided to disobey God, technically we're all, you know, subjected to death, subjected to sin. I'm not a happy person. I deserve the worst, right? And that's because the only reason why I'm happily breathing is because, you know, Jesus saved me, right? And so when we look at this pretense, like, because we fell, you know, I know this is a very unpopular thing. God can do whatever he wants, right? Whether it's, you know, genocide, putting us to death, we talk about suffering and all these things.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Suppose that you woke up tomorrow and you've been sort of transported into Canaan. You wake up and you're a Canaan.
Yeah.
And you think you haven't done anything particularly wrong, but you're a bad person, you're a sinner, right? And then the Israelites come knocking at the door, and you know that they've been sent by God, and they come to your door, and you say to yourself, well, I know that this is the will of God, even though it's really horrible, God can do whatever he likes. So you say, please don't kill me, Mr. Israelite. Instead, let me first betray my family to you, and then know it's the will of the Lord. Will you allow that to happen?
I will confess to you. Right? So, like, whatever I'm connected to, I'm not entitled to a good life. Like, I think even me living is a gift from God. That's how I talk to you.
Do you think that applies to, like, infants?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes. I know it's an unpopular opinion.
So you think infants are deserving of the treatment they're given in 1 Samuel?
I think because we all fell, yes.
I'm sorry, you've been voted out.
Sorry.
Please return to
All
your
good.
seat.
Hey, Afghan, nice to meet you.
Okay, I disagree. I'd love to look at the case of the Amalekites in 1 Samuel 15.
Sure.
So 1 Samuel 15, it says, he uses that phrase, every man, woman, child, that lists off the animals, right? So we presume that by the end of that, if only Agag and the animal comes back, that they're all dead.
And then they show up.
Right, again, chapter 27 and chapter 30. Even King Agag, his descendants come up in the book of Esther.
Yes.
Right. So, like, if we're saying, just for example, we have verification that there are children related to the Amalekites who must have been there because it's Agag's children, where else would they be? And they're alive because his descendants go on through Haman, which comes up in Esther. So,
yeah.
How do you
There are a few things to say. Firstly, one of the points where some of the Amalekites come up again, it's explicitly said that these are people who escaped. These are people who escaped. And so it's possible that God commanded that all of Amalek was destroyed, and the word harem there means utterly destroy. That might also involve a driving out of the land. So it's possible that some of them escaped, and that's where we get the descendants from. That seems totally plausible to me. The question is, did God command a genocide? By the way, genocide includes forcible expulsion from somebody's land in a case of ethnic cleansing. What I'm looking at is, did God command the ethnic cleansing of the land of Israel from people like the Amalekites, people like Ai, people like Jericho? And I think the answer is clearly yes. Like, for example, do you think that any innocent children, maybe let's use the word innocent,
I have no idea. I don't think that it's recorded.
Okay, but you think that God definitely commanded the killing?
No, I don't. I think that's a hypothetical. And I know I've heard you talk about this. I think you demonstrated in Babylonian, Sumerian writings very similar.
Yeah.
There's an Egyptian stele which says that Israel was wiped out and their seed was utterly removed.
Yeah.
It was gone. And so we've got like comparable phrases used in other ancient Near Eastern communities.
in their historical text that talks very similarly, but like we know that the Jews persisted to exist in Israel, even though the Egyptians said that they were no more. And that text explicitly says man, woman, and child. That's hyperbolic language that even we used to, like for example, in World War II, there's those huge posters that were put up. Every man, woman, and child is needed. You know, like that's I can read that.
Sure. Imagine that. I mean, there's a discussion at the moment about genocide. Now, suppose that you're killing children, and Israel said, yeah, but that's just war. Imagine if you covered behind the scenes, the Prime Minister of Israel had said, leave alive nothing that breathes. Kill everyone. Kill man, kill woman, kill child and infant. Kill the animals. Kill the donkeys. Don't leave anything alive that breathes. Even if he was trying to sort of make a hyperbolic point. The fact that children were then dying as a result, I think that we could lay some blame at his feet. Here we have God saying, those are the words that are recorded. Also, hyperbole, when we get into Joshua and the destruction of the nation of Ai, it's explicitly said that 12,000 people died that day. All the people of Ai, it says. It does imply that some people ran away, because it says, I have it here in Joshua chapter 8, when Israel had finished killing all the men of Ai in the fields, the wilderness, and the by the way, earlier it says, and not a man remained in Ai and Bethel who did not go after Israel, because Israel says, draw them out of the city, and they pretend to run away, and Ai runs after them. It says, not a man remained in Ai. It then says, when Israel had finished killing all the men in the field and the when everyone who was killed, the Israelites turned around and returned to Ai and killed everyone who was left. If there was not a man who was left in Ai, who had to run out of the who is it? It's the women, it's the children. We're then told that 12,000 people fell that day, all the people of Ai, and it says 12,000 men and women. So we know that women who are non-combatants were also killed. Even if there's hyperbolic language being used here, we know that we're being told that specifically 12,000 people died, including non-combatant women.
Okay, so I think, for example, in 1 Samuel 15, it's literature. So we don't like go over and above like how interpreting literature works. So even though like the text can be saying this is what God said, well, it's still in a literary form.
Do you think God said that? Do you think it's accurate?
Well, I mean, I wasn't there. I didn't hear it. I think that the Old Testament scripture is inspired, and I think that it doesn't fail in its representation of revealing God. Like, for example, like we talked about the New Testament, right? John chapter 2, he puts the temple expulsion moment at the beginning of his gospel. Do I think that John is actually concerned with the chronology? No, I don't think that. I think it's a literary tool. And I think the Bible is full of that. They're literary texts and they're assembled in a certain way. So I don't think that necessarily that means that God was the one using hyperbole, but that the scribe recording the events and sort of summarizing what happened says, okay, so God commands to attack the Amalekites. But does that mean that God is the one who did the hyperbolizing?
Do you think it's really problematic? You mentioned the cleansing of the temple. That even though the chronology is off, the point is recorded. If we had a story of the cleansing of the temple, if we discovered some early manuscripts and some versions of John, where Jesus goes into the temple, he starts cleansing the temple, looking at the table, and then he starts punching the children, just starts punching them because he's so angry, right? You probably think either it didn't happen, or if you prove that it did happen, that Jesus was less moral than you thought he was, or if for some reason people believe that that's what he did, I think it would be a problem for you. And I think that if you're looking at a good God here, the fact that even this is reported as something that he said, and this is part of the Jewish tradition that basically nobody disputes is at least theologically accurate.
Right, but you've yet to demonstrate children being killed in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
You haven't actually shown it. So yes, I would find that to be problematic, but you haven't shown innocent children.
We know that
Right, we just talked through all of that.
So you think God was hyperbolizing? I think
the scribe is hyperbolizing. I think the scribe is hyperbolizing God's command.
Okay, fine. So you think that the scribe has inaccurately recorded the command of God, therefore the Old Testament is
Right, so like that's not the same thing. I'm not saying the scribe made something up. I'm saying the scribe has a command.
So where did they get that
from God? It's literally through a prophet. So
but did God say to Prophet Samuel, leave life nothing but breathes?
I don't know.
Okay, and if he did, then we've got the command to kill the innocent children. If he didn't, then we've got a problem with the accuracy of God.
No, I don't agree with that at all. Like I said, it's literature. Right, so God can say something in the recording of the event and employ literary devices like that. I want to go to the Jericho. Talk about that. I think, for example, like with Jericho, we have all the reason to believe that Jericho was a military stronghold. I think that's the case. I think it's historically accurate, and so we're not like just looking at Israel going in and just sort of like killing for no reason, right? I mean, it's a military conquest. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a single nation in all of human history that was founded without violence.
I agree.
That's never happened. I understand why you would say it's problematic. God is stuck with that, which I get.
God would not instruct that. I mean, you know, my country is formed at the beginning of 1066 with Northern invasion, right? And like, it may be, I can imagine shouting, kill them, and then go to their wives, and then go to their children, and their children. I see someone saying that in the history taking that. But this is still part of the God that people have in their pews. It's in the hotel room in America. You
Genesis, when God leads Abraham to build the house, like he says, I'll bring you back here in several generations when the Amorite sin is filled up. Like that language when the bucket falls over.
That's sinful people.
Right. So I understand why that can be problematic, but when I read the text, I believe that God is allowed to he's allowed to use human beings to do that, including simple human beings.
Okay, pause. You said voted out by the majority.
Good to that's good.
All right, really quick, before we begin the discussion, I'm going to give you this gift and also use my point for the topic of genocide.
Okay.
Because you're saying that God commands genocide, correct? So you're making this God sound like a very hating God. That like
Well,
commands...
hateful, just genocidal.
So here's the first nugget I would like to give to you. It says, cast your anxieties because he cares for you. The way how you're portraying this God, when you say that very broad statement of God commanding genocide, I disagree. Because in the beginning of the Bible, God is love. At the end of the Bible, God is love. Our first year, he stated that our God is a very just God. So can we argue that or say that even though this God perhaps, like, in the beginning of the Old Testament, genocide occurs a lot, we can also say that...
So do you think genocide doesn't occur?
If it did say that in the Bible, I just want to say that, like, these people also went to heaven. It's not like they're getting, like, killed and punished in that moment. He's also taking these souls of his women and children and taking them with him, if that's the case. But the whole argument is about God, like...
Okay, I have a question then. Do you think it's okay to kill people because they'll eventually just go to heaven anyway after you kill them?
It's not about killing, it's just like...
Are people who get abortions doing their unborn children a favour by killing them and wounding them before giving them fast track to heaven?
This is a different approach to genocide, but I just want to say, like...
I don't think you get to inflict a genocide and then sort of just make up for it with the fact that you send them to heaven afterwards. I mean, maybe you do. The problem is that the Israelites are also simple people. And when the Israelites are simple, they get the prophet of God with literal stone tablets telling them how to correct their path. The Canaanites are simple people. And when they're simple people, they get the Israelites coming in and wiping
But
their
our God is a just God, and I feel like even
that's
though
what
they're
I'm critiquing.
if they're sinful people, they have laws. Thank you
Thanks.
for your prayer.
Hello.
So you pointed out several times, but the prophets through and through condemn Israel in much harsher terms. In fact, God dispersed them in much greater judgments because they were, and in fact, in Ezekiel it says that because you were supposed to be the light of the world, you are judged all the more strictly and are more responsible. So God was just with Israel, and in fact, he placed more of a burden and a mantle and a responsibility on them and judged them for it than he did the nations. And case in point, what's already brought up was the number of generations that passed before the Amalekites were judged and the Canaanites were judged.
Yeah.
But we can come back to that point.
Can I ask you then, how do you find genocide?
Right. If I may, I actually have a question I wanted to ask you.
I think it's important to know.
Based on the word genome, obviously etymologically we understand that you're taking it as a tribal seed line, which is fair.
Yeah, to be tribe,
sure,
religion,
sure.
ethnicity.
I can understand.
I know we're talking about the destruction of people based on those characteristics.
So here's the problem. Genocide, the way it's, especially the way it's used today, it implies that it's based on and that is categorically against the command of God to conquer the Canaanites. It had nothing to do with it. It had to do with their sin. And in fact, this is...
So you know that when Amalek was attacked,
right.
Israel's first warned them of tribe.
Yes.
And said, get out of here. Because you were good to us. Amalek battled.
Yes.
This other tribe. You guys get out of here. They warn them, right? They don't say, hey, you get to stay here. They say, you've got to go, but we're going to warn you first that we don't totally destroy you.
That's right.
In other words, it does seem to be, I mean, why is it that Israel are going into this land? The nation, why are they going into this land? Because it's the land promised to them by God. Why does it need to be cleansed? Because there are people in that land.
Deuteronomy chapter 7, chapter 9, it says, do not think that it is because of your righteousness or because of anything that has to do with you that I brought you into this land. It is that I gave it to you. This is Deuteronomy chapter 9. So it's not because he promised them based on some sort of ethnic requisite. In fact, the whole premise behind the destruction was the prototype of Sodom and Gomorrah.
So then a question which I think I know the answer to. Do you think there was not one good person
No, exactly, and that's the
Right, and if that's the case,
So that's why I brought up Sodom.
let me ask you a second question.
Well, hold on, let me answer your question a little bit more.
Were there any good people in Israel, in the nation of Israel?
Right. So let me answer your question.
Because if the answer is that there were bad people in Israel,
this was
why is it that if it's not about nation?
Slaughter of the children.
Nobody's innocent, but my specific question is...
No, but you're saying the children in the
No, that's not what I'm saying right now. What I'm saying is that I retract what I'm saying because I know it's true. What I'm saying specifically here is that if the reason why Canaan is destroyed is because they're immoral, there's all kinds of immorality happening within the Israelite nation. Happening within the Israelite nation as well. It's not about nation, it's not about tribe. Then why is it that Israel aren't told to kill the immoral people in their tribe, but only people in the other?
No, they are. In fact, that's what they do. In fact, the entire generation was promised that these would die out because of their sin.
But not at the hands of the Israelites.
Okay, fine.
Right. But the Israelites are not told to expunge their own nation of the sin by killing and killing their children and killing their animals.
Sure. Yeah, perfect. Let's talk about the pedophilia rings, that conspiracy theory is like, just imagine people from Vendetta stuff. Like, imagine hackers just broadcast everything all the black videos, video files, the Epstein, whatever. So you have this certain amount of racism and it's on a scale that no one ever imagined. Okay, would you say that there is justice in bringing those people? Obviously, no one would disagree. In fact, the public opinion on execution. Who knows? But I wouldn't. Okay, so we're getting there. So we'll get there step by step. Let's start with the men and the women. So let's suppose in this example, the conspiracy theory is true, and everybody finds out, and then everybody agrees that the men and the women that were involved in this pedophilia ring, let's say.
I didn't know what it was. I thought it was Banish canon. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a Banish canon. I'm sorry, I don't play this game.
Okay, so which is a war crime. Right. So no, it's a war crime by putting.
This is boring me. It's the same cyclical stuff over and over again. Elon Musk, a comedy documentary.
Way back in the day, I was one of the world's best brake players. Yeah.
I love playing.
I mean, my final semester in college, I probably put more time to break than all my college classes. I have a lifetime of playing video games. At one point, I was, maybe one of the best brake players in the world. At one point, and one of the best teams in the country, actually.
Are you in the top 20 in the world? Or top 20? Wow. In Diablo.
Yeah. I was on the school chess team, but I find chess is like it's a simple game, frankly, in my opinion.
Like, you're actually like a world-class, incredible video game player.
Yeah.
See, Harry? That's where the video ends for some people. But for those with critical thinking skills and aren't stuck in tribalism, there's a lot more to Earth's first superhuman, Elon Musk. He's also a bullshit artist.
The Spud Hunter.
It reeks of desperation. It reeks so.
I remember this guy. He was a. I don't like that guy. Well, I killed 15 people, but I couldn't get the last guy. Oh, this thing's blocking all the shots. God damn it! You're so annoying. Ah, damn fucking rim! Sit up. Wait, how the hell did this happen? How the hell did this happen? I don't know, maybe I should just start taking like instant fucking 8 of them or whatever. Phew. Oh, okay. 5 left, 10 kills. I better just dump. I really don't want to die. I'm out of ammo, and that's very bad. Please give me ammo. It's good enough. Thank you. Three left. Wish me luck. I gotta get my ass elevated. Yeah, baby! Yeah! I can't scream. I can't scream. Win by default. The 3 most beautiful words in the English language. Win by default. Yeah. "13 elims, 27% accuracy, 6,000 damage, 32 headshots, damage taken 500. That's it. 205 hits, double digits, single digit, windbound transportation. Doing pretty good. Well, it's 4 in the morning. I should go to bed because I have to get up and go do something here. I should stop here. It's unfortunate. I have something I've got to do in the real life tomorrow. So, you know, I'm going to stop on a win. It's a good place to stop. Yeah, claim all. I wonder what the Steam game player statistics are right now. Marvel Rivals, number 4. PUBG. Naraka, Grand Theft Auto 5, Path of Exile 2, Rust. Rust is doing pretty good because it's like Monday, the white day, yeah. And RDR 2. Crosshair X, Elden Ring, Warframe. Once Humans in number 35, that's good. But it's dropped down a bit. Limbus Company. All right, well, so I'm going to stop here, guys. Thank you so much. It was a fun day. I am going to stop. I am Skycatlive. I'm a full-time variety gamer all day, every day. Put me on in the background. Click on the cat space to donate. Come to the Twitch or the YouTube. I would have stayed in this another 3 hours, but I'm sorry. I've got something I've got to do 2 o'clock today, so it'll be a little bit of a later start today. It'll be a half day today, and I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty fried. So I'm going to stop. And so this 11 hours was recorded, and it will be placed on my YouTube channel, which is reflected here, where I have thousands of videos. And come give me a like, sub, or follow. Take a look at one of my. Look, I'm getting views and stuff. It's good to see people and you know, get some views and stuff. And yep, I'm picking up, getting some more views on my channel and stuff. And yeah, and so thank you so much for your time, guys. I love you so much. And I'm gonna stop the video here, and I'm gonna post these videos to my YouTube as I stop this stream. Bye.